Naam, tunakaribia kuanza tukio letu la leo. Naona mambo yote yameshakaa sawa na wageni tumeshafika kadri inavyotarajia, na wale watu wetu ambao wanatuonesha moja kwa moja tukio letu mubashara kwa njia ya mtandao pia wako sawia. Kama nilivyosema mwanzo, ili ni tukio letu la 5 la forum yetu ya Banking and Finance and Investment. Na kwa muda huu naomba nitumie nafasi hii kumkaribisha mkuu wa idara ya fedha shule kuu ya biashara chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam ili aweze kutupa introductory remarks na welcome remarks specifically for our 5th Banking, Finance and Investment Forum. Dr. Tobias Swai, karibu sana.
Barini za mchana. Karibuni sana kwenye event yetu ya 5 ya Banking, Finance na Investment Forum. Hii event ilianzishwa na chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam Business School, Department of Finance, kutokana na kushiriki. Sasa hivi tunaingia kwenye curriculum review, yani kuangalia tunafundishaje. Na Jumatatu tuna mkutano wa wadau kutokana na tracer study tulioifanya. Inatuambia watu waliosoma hapa wanasema tuweke mkazo kwenye nini? Mkazo uko kwenye vitu vya namna hii. Yani tuwe na public talks. Wanafunzi wetu waweze kuconnect zaidi na industry. Wanafunzi wetu waweze kuwa practical zaidi. Sasa tunawaletea haya makongamano sio ya kawaida sana, unaweza kusema kwenye department au kwenye schools zingine, lakini sasa ni kwa ajili ya kuweza sasa kutafsiri kile kitu ambacho tunakisoma, kuja kulink na watu wa industry. Kwa hiyo na encourage everybody, watu ambao wako kwenye industry muendelee kutusupport, watu ambao ni wanafunzi muendelee kuja. Tutakuja na speakers mbalimbali. Event yetu ya kwanza kabisa ilihusisha mambo ya personal financing na issues za banking. Event ya pili ikahusisha mambo ya insurance services industry. Tulishakuwa na event kuhusiana na project finance pamoja na pension funds. Leo tuna event kuhusiana na issues za microfinance pamoja na, kwa sababu kuna watu wanamaliza mwaka huu sio mbali sana, tutaongea issues za employability. Kwa hiyo tuwakaribishe sana na tuendelee kupata support. Mnaweza mkatembelea website yetu. Ukiwa kwenye Google unaweza ukagogo Department of Finance, utapata discussions zote za mwaka jana kwenye kitabu. Utapata vile vile profile yetu, na unaweza ukaja ukapata hizi zingine ambazo tunaendelea kuzifanya, baadaye kidogo tutaziweka. Na the way tunavyo-operate hapa ni kwamba tunapata paper moja iliyofanywa research aidha na mwanafunzi wa finance au na staff wa finance, alafu tutapata insights from the industry. Na naomba muwe na maswali, yani discussion ya leo ni ya maswali zaidi. Ulizeni maswali na kwa watu wa industry kuhusiana na microfinance. Na microfinance siku hizi imekuwa pana sana, nafikiri wazungumzaji watasema. Microfinance sasa hivi imekuwa pana kiasi kwamba inakujia kwenye simu anytime. Kwa hiyo usiku wa saa 8 saa 9 ukitaka kukopa tu, microfinance iko na wewe. Unajua zamani zile ilikuwa kwamba ukitaka kukopa uende lipa application fee, kimeshuka kimepanda. Sasa hivi kwa sababu ya teknolojia na kwa sababu ya juhudi za serikali kuhusiana na kuboresha kanzi data ya watu na wakopaji, yaani unaweza ukakopa saa yoyote, dakika yoyote, na unaweza ukakopa kwa senti. Yaani unaweza kaambiwa sasa mkopo wangu nataka nikope labda shilingi 50 na senti 72. Unajua zamani kwa iwezekana unaambia kima cha chini bwana ni shilingi fulani. Kwa hiyo vitu vyote hivi ni vitu vya kuviangalia, na wale ambao tuko kwenye research ni kitu ambacho cha kuangalia sasa namna gani ya kufanya research vizuri ili tuweze kuweza kuelewa zaidi hizi sekta na matatizo na changamoto ambazo zipo, ili tuweze kusaidia ukuaji wa uchumi na juhudi za serikali kuleta maendeleo. Given kwamba sisi ni chuo cha serikali na component ya teaching and training ni muhimu sana kwenye kukua kwa uchumi. Kwa hiyo naomba niwakaribishe sana, nashukuru sana timu yangu, Godsavian, Ndasile, Dr. Elizabeth na watoto wa idara ya finance na sponsors wote na nyie kwa kuja. Wito wangu ni kwamba tukae, tusikilize, tuulize maswali, tujibiwe, tu learn. Unaweza kwenda baadaye tena ukaangalia kwenye system, kwenye YouTube, ukapitia, ukatuuliza tena maswali. Kama una kitu kinakutatiza, unaweza vile vile ukaandika online, ukatutumia, tukaweza kukupatia majibu. Ili sasa wakati tunaenda kureview curriculum yetu, na tunavyoenda kureview curriculum na tunavyoenda kutengeneza namna nzuri zaidi ya kusoma, tuweze kuincorporate mambo ya namna hii as we go. Kwa hiyo karibuni sana na nawashukuruni kwa kunisikiliza.
Asante sana. Asante Dr. Swai, mkuu wa idara ya fedha, shule kuu ya biashara chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam. Kama alivyoelezea mwanzo kwamba forum yetu tunajaribu kuwaleta watu wa aina mbalimbali, watu wa ndani ya chuo pia na watu wa nje, na huwa tunapendelea kwenye kila forum kunakuwa na mtu wetu wa ndani ambaye ana present. Anaweza kuwa ni staff, anaweza kuwa student. Kuja kupresent hapa alikuwa na mwanafunzi wetu wa masters, amemaliza just this year na interest kubwa na research. Kuja atafanya presentation ya kile alichokiona. Baada ya hapo tutakuja na session ya maswali na majibu kuhusu kile atakacho present. Kwa ufupi naomba kukaribisha Miss Queen Consolata, karibu sana. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Head of department, the Department of Finance, lecturers, my fellow students, and sponsors, and everyone, good afternoon. As introduced, my names are Queen Consolata Michael Mambo, an APA graduate from the University of Dar es Salaam Business School. I conducted my research on factors contributing to loan repayment performance in microfinance institutions. So it's actually an overwhelming opportunity to be able to present it in front for this second time again. I'll give a brief definition of the microfinance institution so that if someone doesn't clearly understand, may have a simple meaning. Microfinance institutions are organizations that were established in order to offer financial services to low-income earners and small and medium enterprises that do not have access to financial services or do not have collateral. As you know, when borrowing from commercial banks, it's a requirement for everyone to have collaterals, but microfinances were established and made it simpler for its clients so that they may be able to obtain the financial services that other individuals obtain. So the study, I interviewed borrowers from the Foundation for International Community Assistance Microfinance Bank in Dar es Salaam, commonly known as FINCA. So the study participants were borrowers from FINCA Microfinance. So why FINCA? FINCA is among the first microfinances that were established in Tanzania, but it also has more than 20 years of experience, and it operates in both rural and urban areas. But also, its market coverage, the extent of the clients that it has, it brought the attention of I using it as a case study to my research in order to have the desirable results. The total borrowers, the total number of respondents that were able to respond to the questionnaires were 114, of which others I was able to meet one-to-one and others were interviewed, were questioned through the phone, and the questionnaires were filled. Most of the respondents were male and others were female. Most of the borrowers were young people, as in at the age of 26 to 35 and 36 to 45. We have made majority of the population that responded to the questionnaires. Also, at the education level, most of them were very well educated, and others were employed, others were not employed, they were self-employed, and others, their sources of income were based on inheritance funds or support from various donors. There are types of business. There are those who used, there are those who were doing mechanizing businesses, others services businesses, and there are others who did not have businesses, but also acquired loans from the microfinance institutions in order to cater their various needs. And these were employees from various areas. So the variables to the study were loan characteristics, borrower's characteristics, and loan purposes. The variables that were assessed under loan characteristics was the loan duration, that is the amount of the period of time that the borrowers were able to stay with the loan before repaying, the amount of loan, the interest rate, and the repayment schedule, that is the agreement between the financial institution and the borrowers to make the payments on time. Then the borrower's characteristics were the age, gender, marital status, sources of income, education. The borrower's characteristics enabled the study to identify the population that we were dealing with and their common characteristics. And the loan purposes, where I assessed the ways the loan was utilized by the microfinance clients. Okay, it was a quantitative research. It was a quantitative research using explanatory research design. The borrowers were from FINCA, and the minimum sample during the proposal was 109, but good enough, we got more than that. And it was a descriptive data analysis that was analyzed by using inferential analysis applied by Smart PLS. Okay, going to the key findings from the research study. The key findings were a majority of the borrowers were young people, the age of 26 to 35 and 36 to 45. This shows that there are people who could work and repay the loans at a required time. The level of education, as we know, most of them currently are very well educated. Others complete studies and go directly to employing themselves because the employment sector is a bit tight. Most of the borrowers had an experience of taking loans from the microfinance institutions more than once, and they had mechanizing businesses, services, and others did not have businesses but also acquired loans for other reasons. On the loan characteristics, most of the borrowers kept more emphasis that the interest rates were very high, that they were not favorable for them to make loans make the repayments on time, and others say they acquired a certain amount of loan, but it wasn't enough to cater their needs. So they used the loan, but it wasn't. This is forcing them to to top up the loan, and they have a loan, it's almost going to an end, they also take another loan. This kulimbikiza mkopo, when it makes them fail to repay on time at a certain time. Also, on the aspect of the grace period, it came to my attention that most of the borrowers did not understand that there is a grace period. The loan duration sometimes it's favorable, but they are not quite aware of what the grace period means, or maybe they are ignorant, but they're not quite aware of what the grace period means. So you find them telling that I did not know if there was a grace period, that's why and I don't know what made me default that way. So there is some point of ignorance and also illiteracy on the financial services provided. And the loan purposes, majority of the borrowers admitted not being able to ascertain the required loan amount for their businesses. Others, on the occurrence of certain emergencies, they use the loan funds for different purposes apart from the intended ones, the ones that they agreed upon when they were borrowing their loans. This made them fail to repay on time, and others even defaulted. And majority of respondents admitted to the loan not being enough for reasons that they are located. But this was more of they were not able to critically assess their businesses before acquiring the loan. So this makes them acquire a smaller loan for a large activity. So concluding to the research has become the issue of loan repayment in microfinance institutions is one of the burning issues, especially the loan purpose factors. Most of the people obtain a loan for certain reasons, then they diverge the loan to other reasons, to other activities. Also, they use them for other activities. Also, the study has provided a valuable contribution in improving loan, was designed to provide valuable contribution in improving loan repayment in microfinance institutions through better understanding of various factors that contribute to repayment. Recommendations: microfinance institutions should put more efforts in assessing individual behaviors during checking the capacity of a loan application. But adding on top of this is that the health of an individual when acquiring the loan should be critically assessed, because most of the people in the arrears list were deceased. So you find someone has passed away, but the count of arrears is high because of they are not able to pay. Also, clients will obtain the information and support they need from microfinance institutions to thrive in business. This can be like workshops on how to manage businesses, how to allocate their loan fund to the required business and to repay on time. Also, loan fund diversions, business seasonality, and borrowers' illiteracy with loan interest, computation problems being observed from the results. Borrowers are advised to be very extra careful in the time of borrowing. Practical implications: microfinance institutions should obtain adequate information of borrowers before disbursing their loans. The study has revealed borrowers are sensitive to interest rates, that they affect their ability to repay the loans. Also, the presence of relatively large number of arrears affect the sustainable operations of microfinance institutions, leading to their fall in the financial market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Pigia makofi tafadhali. Asante sana. Asante. Okay, so I'll pick a few questions. You can sit here. Yes, you can pick like 2 questions for her from her presentation. So she was able to present her research, including the conceptual framework, methodology, findings, conclusions, recommendation, together with the practical implication. Relatively to the topic that she undertake a research on factors contributing to loan repayment performance in microfinance institutions. So I welcome questions to her. Oh, this is very nice. Oh, okay. We have one question from here. Any other question? Okay, so we'll pick one question and then move forward from there. Karibu sana.
Asante, mimi nitaongea Kiswahili. Mada anayoongelea is very sensitive na labda ni declare interest. Mimi ni banker mwaka wa 11, lakini pia nimefanya microfinance ambayo inaitwa Fanikiwa Microfinance for 3.5 years kama council manager. Lakini pia nimekaa kitengo cha mikopo kwa zaidi ya miaka 11 na mpaka sasa ni product owner and individual lending deposits. So mada leo ongelea ni very sensitive na kwenye industry inasumbua. Swali ni moja tu. Kwanza mimi kabla swali nimpongeze kwa research aliyofanya na ndio demand kwenye market sasa hivi. La pili, umeongelea grace period. Nitaka kujua mkopo ambao ulikuwa wanatoa grace period ni mkopo gani au ulikuwa unamaanisha tena loan duration?
By grace period, I meant
Yes, you can answer the question. It's okay.
By grace period, I meant the time after the period of loan repayment has finished. There is a time of 30 days to. There's a time of 30 days, I think, to 90 that they are given to the borrowers before they are being followed up for loan repayment arrears.
Okay, thank you very much. That's okay with you?
Nadhani alikuwa anamaanisha ile time mteja anapoanza kuingia kwenye arrears, kama nimempata vizuri. Yani the due date imeisha labda ni leo, alafu baada ya hapo sasa naanza kufollow into arrears ambao sasa ndo naongeleza 30 days, 60, 90 na kuendelea. Sijui kama ndio hivyo alikuwa anamaanisha. Asante.
Asante sana. Tuna swali la pili hapa, tutakuwa ni la mwisho kwa presenter wetu wa kwanza. Wengine tutabaki na maswali yetu. Tuna session baadaye ya more interactive section. So don't worry.
Asante. Kama alivyosema muuliza swali aliyepita, issue ya microfinance ni very sensitive na ni kitu ambacho kila mtu anatamani kukielewa kwa undani. Sasa issue yangu mimi, ukiangalia kwenye microfinance ndio huko tunapata na mikopo yetu ya songesha na nini. Kile ukiangalia interest rate huku ni kubwa sana na benka iko pale, wao kiwauliza wanakiulia kusema risk ni kubwa. Sasa labda kama kwenye research yako uliweza kujua namna gani unaweza tuka mitigate hiyo risk, ili nikikopa songesha 1000 nisilipe 1130, nilipe 1000 labda na 2 au na 3, kama ambayo itakuwa rahisi zaidi. Nafikiri ningetamani kusikia kama kuna findings zote ambazo nizipata za mitigate hiyo risk ambayo itaweza kuleta effect moja kwa moja kwenye interest rate.
Thank you very much. Karibu.
Okay, thank you. The issue of interest rate being able to be lowered down, it's the case for microfinance institutions. My case was based mostly on the borrowers, but I can try to answer that. The loan amount, the loan interest is based on the amount of loan that you obtain. The lower the amount, the lower interest. So basing on songesha and other microcredits, the loan interest is based on the number of days you stay with the amount that they give you. For example, I think songesha is 1%. something like that. So it increases with the number of days you stay with it, but being revised is an issue of the microfinance institution.
All right. Thank you very much, Queen Consolata. Oh, you have additions? Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edwin Urasa. I think she's done quite a wonderful job in terms of the assessment that she has just presented to us. Perhaps it's the issue of interest rate. I mean, just to add on what she just already articulated. Borrowers. You're talking of almost between 9 up to 14% or 15%. Contrary to the capping of interest rate that has been applied to microfinance around the 3.5%. So I think that's something that will require quite a lot of courageous discussion, also with regulator and key stakeholders, for it to be addressed. It is something that is still a challenge, and perhaps we can elaborate more during the other presentation, especially mine as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the contribution. Kidogo naanza kuelewa kwa nini watu walikuwa very quiet. Kumbe kuna issues za interest rate kidogo zinaumiza, si ndio eh? Nadhani kwa sababu presenter atakayefuata pia atakuja touch a little bit kama yeye mwenyewe alivyotoa utangulizi hapo kwenye hayo maeneo. Nadhani pia tutapata discussion nzuri zaidi na yeye tukimsikiliza. Na kama tulivyosema mwanzo, tunataka a forum iwe interactive. We can hear from the academics, we'll also hear from the practitioners out there, and then the discussion can open up and we can have a lot to discuss. By saying that, thank you again, Queen Consolata. Can we clap for her again? Okay, thank you. So before we move to our next presenter, the second one, may I use this opportunity to welcome our sponsors. As we all know, hatuwezi kuwa na event kubwa kama hii bila kuwa na watu wa kuweza kutusupport moja kwa moja. Tupo nao wa aina mbalimbali kama mkuu wa idara alivyotoa utangulizi mwanzoni. Kwa tutawapa kwa muda tofauti. Kwa sasa hivi naomba niwape sponsors wawili. Tunaanza na TIB Rasilimali, and then watakuja watu wa Credit Info. Watupe maoni matatu kuhusu kile wanachokifanya na namna gani wanaweza wakatusupport zaidi. Karibu sana.
Nashukuru. Habari za jioni. Naitwa George, natokea TIB Rasilimali as a head of trading. TIB Rasilimali ni taasisi ya serikali, kampuni tanzu ya TIB Development Bank, ambayo kwa umoja wako pia ilikuwepo na ile TIB Corporate ambayo kwa sasa imekuwa merge na TPB wakatengeneza TCB. TIB Rasilimali ni licensed dealing member wa capital market CMSA with the core functions investment advisory, fund management na trading activities kwenye Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Lakini TIB Rasilimali ni one of the first founder wa Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Zile brokerage kama 4 au 5 hivi ambazo zilianzisha soko la hisa toka capital market law inapoanzishwa. It's way back from 1980 ikiwa kampuni ya serikali inayosimamia rasilimali hasa ikiwa majengo kabla ya kuhamishiwa kwingine. Walipofanya mabadiliko ya sheria ya securities, yenyewe ikabadilika ikaenda kuwa brokerage firm chini ya TIB development. Na kazi kubwa ni hizo. We leveraging capital markets for strategy investment and wealth generation. Kikubwa ni all about the capital market, investment on bonds, equities kwa maana ya shares, UTT, nimeona watumishi housing, lakini pia tuna task ya ku manage SMEs au corporate on a financing purpose, kwa maana unahitaji mtaji, tunakutanisha mtu mwenye hela na mtu anayetafuta hizo hela kwa ajili ya kuzifanyia kazi. Karibuni, sisi tuko karibu na chuo kikuu, tuko Mlimani City, head office, pale ambapo zipo DFI, Tanzania Bank Investment. Karibuni sana kwa huduma za uwekezaji kwenye masoko ya mitaji ya dhamana ndani na nje. Kwa sasa soko limefunguliwa, tunahitaji kutap hiyo wealth generation ya masoko mengine. Nilipewa dakika 5, nafikiri zimetosha. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Kweli tumekaribia. Nikwambia utuambie maneno mawili matatu kuhusu namna gani mtatusupport na mbele pia. Au ni
hapana, tuna mikakati mingi. Sasa sijui ni Dr. unaniruhusu niongee yote? Okay, nafikiri wewe mtu wa department utakuwa naelewa. Tumeanza na tutaendelea kwa maana ya forum hii, lakini tuna mkakati wa ndani wa tofauti. Dr. atakuja kuruhusu kama nani kwenye kuenda mbali zaidi, hasa huu upande wa financing mode, kutafuta, kusource, kuzistructure, kuziweka ziwe proper and then kuzitafutia fund kwa uelewa huko ambao sisi tunaofahamu wa capital market. Kwa hiyo nafikiri kuna signings zinakuja huko mbele, Dr. ataziongelea. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Jamani, makofi. Hawa ni sponsors, makofi yao mengi kidogo. Tupo hapa kwa sababu wao wameamua tuwe hapa. Asante sana presenter kutoka TIB Rasilimali. The next one, our sponsor is Credit Info. Karibu sana.
Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. From Credit Info, I'm joining with my colleague here, Romwat. My name is Edwin Urasa. I'm also a former graduate from University of Dar es Salaam, BCom Finance. So, Dr. alinifundisha, Dr. Tobias, and quite many of them I think here. Hata professor pale, namkumbuka, yes. Kwa hiyo I graduated a bit longer, 2004. Naona mzee sana mimi. Kwa hiyo that was back in the days. But again, it's good to be here, and I'm very thankful for the invite. And I mean, our commitment to continue supporting the initiative will always be there. And I think we are forming quite a collective engagement that will lead to something bigger. I won't say much about Credit Info. I'm thinking of sharing my presentation there. I'll take some time, about 2 to 3 minutes, perhaps just to address, who we are, and then subsequent I'll touch base quite a lot on during the presentation. So, in essence, we are taasisi ya utunzaji wa taarifa za mkopo. How many of you mmeshasikia? We are a credit reference bureau. So, okay, couple of you, I think. I can see less than 10 hands. So in terms of how many of you mmekopa, songesha wapi? Kwa nyinyi wanafunzi nazungumzia zaidi. Amjienda PesaX, I've seen quite a lot of advert around that. So if you've ever borrowed, in this country, whether you've borrowed from microfinance or digital lenders, more likely I'll say that we have your data within our bureau. But I believe that most of you are sponsored by the government, sindio? But my humble request to you, make sure that when you get the job, uanze kulipa ukimaliza. Kwa sababu tuna mkataba na Higher Education Student Loan Board.
like to come. Particularly the head of finance department. I'm honored and privileged and very happy to be here. It's not rare, it's not, frequent that we get such opportunities. And I know I'm the culprit today because everybody is like, mwacha ongee, tumsikie, tumulize. Lakini, it's a sharing experience and, well, I'll try my level best to respond what I know. Well, all right. So my topic for today is the microfinance landscape in Tanzania and the challenges facing the industry. Okay, is it exciting or not? Okay, sawa. My presentation is going to be on 5 areas. First, I'll introduce TAMFI, which is the association and the institution which I'm working with. And then I'll give a very brief or 1-slide introduction to the financial sector landscape. And thirdly, I'll cover the microfinance subsector landscape, the sector which we are all interested to hear about today. And then fourthly, I'll address the challenges. I'll try to be as detailed as possible. And then lastly, I'll make the conclusion. So what is TAMFI? Basically, it is an umbrella. It is a network for microfinance institutions. Like any other association, it is a member-based, a voluntary member-based institution. And it was established way back in 2001. And basically, as I said, it was more on promoting and on advocacy issue. In 2001, if you recall, for those who have studied microfinance, in 2000, the government of Tanzania had an initiative of establishing the microfinance policy. So during that vugu-vugu, that is why, they had to have stakeholders on board ili waweze kuzungumzia hiyo microfinance policy at that time. And so that is when TAMFI started. It was, by that time, microfinance was not that popular. So there were very few stakeholders, and even institutions like National Development Corporation, the NDCs and whoever had to be on board because stakeholders or microfinance institutions were very few at that time. And from the documents, I see that there were only 18 institutions, when they were starting the association. And now you see that even when it comes to the outlook, the objectives of TAMFI have evolved over time. Now the objective is no more on, on just establishing a national microfinance policy, but now it is the unifying organ where now all stakeholders or members of TAMFI come together so that they share experiences, they share ideas, they, network. It's like sort of a club where people can come in with similar interests and then, they address issues which are all affecting them. And also, TAMFI acts as a bridge. It is a bridge between the stakeholders and the members of TAMFI, meaning the stakeholders are, borrowers of microfinance, the government, meaning the regulators and the policy makers and development partners. So, as filling the gap between the players and the stakeholders. And it is also, the objective of TAMFI is also more on research and development, doing studies and making sure that those studies and whatever information which is being gathered is being disseminated. And it also encourages or promotes development of products, new products in the market, through the capacity building sessions. For instance, in the meantime, we are also aligning with climate actions. So we now have capacity building sessions with our members on renewable energy financing and also on water credit or water financing. And in a nutshell, that's how TAMFI started and what were the objectives. Currently, we have 168 members. I'll talk about the numbers in the market and you'll see how small TAMFI is, but they are covered in most parts of Tanzania. But of course, as any other business in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam has the most members. 70% of our members come from Dar, and especially in Kinondoni district. Don't ask me why Kinondoni, but most of them come from that. And the membership covers all stakeholders in the microfinance space. So we have those who are from banking sector but doing microfinance. We have the credit bureaus who are here. My former speaker, Urasa from Credit Info. We have people from, we have members from the non-deposit taking institutions. These are the credit only, and members from digital financial services, not the MNOs, but these are microfinance institutions which have started or have been established just to give loans online. And then we have members from the SACCOs and also the apex body of the community microfinance groups, popularly known as VCOBAs. All right, so moving on to my next slide, we have SCAPE, and this is basically to build the basis for where microfinance falls in the country. And as you see, microfinance is one of the financial sector, discipline in Tanzania. So we have the banking sector. This is popularly known, and there are about 44 banks in the country with 981 branches and about 75,000 agents. Then we have the capital markets, Soko la Hisa. These ones have 28 listed companies and about 16 licensed dealing members. And thirdly, we have the insurance sector, which has 36 insurance companies and about 1,019 insurance agents. And next, what our focus for today is the microfinance subsector, which has 1,260 microfinance service providers. This data is of May this year. And then we have 789 SACCOs and 40,124 CMGs. CMGs, as I said before, these are what are called community microfinance groups, au kwa lugha ya kawaida sisi tunazijua kama vikoba. And lastly, we have the social security. We have the two pension funds. They're all well known, the NSSF and PSSF, and then we have others like non-pension and whatever. So that is the financial sector landscape in Tanzania. All right, so our focus for today is on microfinance. So coming down to microfinance, I know some will say, definition of microfinance, everybody knows it. Lakini, let's understand microfinance, alafu, when I talk about the challenges and whatever, we can reflect on the definition. In simple terms, microfinance ni mikopo midogo kwa watu wa kipato kidogo. That is the definition ambayo ilikuwa very simple. But the National Microfinance Policy of 2017 has gone further to break down what are the financial services, what are the mikopo, what is the huduma ya mikopo midogo. So they have defined it as the provision of financial services. Na hizo financial services ni micro saving, micro loan, micro insurance, micro leasing, micro housing, micro pensions, micro, yani kila kitu lazima kiwe micro. ningesema micro money transfers, but it was not there because I've cut and paste. And then there is another component. We normally don't say this, but financial education. Lazima iwepo kwenye microfinance definition. If you are doing microfinance, you have to provide financial education. And then there is also a component of business development. These are enterprises, micro enterprises. How do you develop their businesses? And then the population, when you say the low income population, it could either be at the individual level, or it could be at a household level or at enterprise level. And the last words are very important, which we say they are systematically excluded from the mainstream, financial sector, or from the conventional, or from the traditional. These are people who cannot walk into a bank because of, criterias and whatever. Now akapatiwa mikopo. That is something we have to have it in the back of our mind. Why am I emphasizing that? It's because sometimes we tend to underestimate the power of microfinance. We tend to underestimate who is involved in microfinance. But when you know that we are the majority who cannot walk into a bank today and get a loan. So these are institutions which can provide alternative financing. Okay, so what is the landscape of microfinance? Now I'm coming down to the subsector, and this categorically, according to the Microfinance Act of 2018, it has been categorized into 4 tiers, or you may say 4 categories. The first tier includes the deposit-taking financial institutions. These are the ones in Swahili tunasema ni wale ambao wanachukua amana kutoka kwenye public. These are those institutions which are mobilizing deposits from the public. And in numbers, there are 3 microfinance banks in the country, and then we have the 3 community banks and 9 commercial banks which have primarily a microfinance window. And they have, through these tier 1, according to May 2023 statistics, they have given credit of 26.66 trillion. You can see the amount. And then tier 2, these are called non-deposit taking institutions, or non-deposit taking service providers, or credit only. These are, in fact, these tier 2 are the majority of TAMFI members. TAMFI members most, fall into that tier. And these ones, through these ones, 866 billion shillings, Tanzanian shillings, has been, accessed or has been, given out. And then we have the tier 3. These are the SACCOs. They are also microfinance. They also fall under the microfinance subsector. And through the SACCOs, 1.65 trillion Tanzanian shillings has been accessed. And lastly, we have the community microfinance groups. And sorry, I don't have the amount of money which has been mobilized or has been credited through the community microfinance groups, but they are there, and these ones are not licensed, but they have been registered through the local government as a delegated authority. But one thing to note is that the tier 1, which are the banks, commercial banks, community banks, and microfinance banks, although they've been recognized by the Microfinance Act of 2018, but they are being regulated in accordance to the Banking and Financial Institutions Act of 2006. Okay. Now I'm coming to the point of challenges of microfinance institutions. But before that, let me say something about existing opportunities. I've said during my introduction of microfinance and definition, we see that microfinance, they provide opportunity or accessibility to individuals or to, households or whatever, enterprises with little or, people who don't have assets at all, so that they can get a loan. These are the ones who cannot get loans from conventional financial institutions, and microfinance, expands access to these ones who otherwise would not have gotten a loan or with limited options. And then we see that there is also a better loan repayment. Loan repayments in microfinance, normally they are flexible according to the businesses or the turnovers or the nature of the enterprise. There can be, daily, weekly, they can be, monthly repayments. It is according to the, the target group. And then it also provides a social network and market. For instance, especially in group lending, where people come together, they make friends, they invest in friendship, they gather, or they can even get markets out of that. And then it also opens possibilities for future investments. And lastly, which is very important, it creates job opportunities and wealth creation. You heard from the first speaker, where she said, FinCo borrowers, most of them are educated. When I did my thesis, like 10 years ago, microfinance clients were those who were illiterate. But nowadays, and she pointed it blankly, that with the current unemployment status, most people tend to engage themselves into such space, and therefore it creates jobs, and also not only jobs for ourselves, but also jobs for others when you hire helpers. So moving on to the policy, to the challenges facing microfinance sector. The first one and foremost, which I would like to talk about, is the policy issues. The policy, legal and regulatory framework, to give you a hint on that, is that in 2000, the government enacted the, established the National Microfinance Policy. But in 2017, it was reviewed, and so we got the National Microfinance Policy of 2017, followed by the Microfinance Act in 2018, and lastly, we had the regulations for microfinance in 2019. These, you see, they are quite current. So, and since they are that current, they're still not very stable in the market, especially for the adopters. And so microfinance subsector, one of the things which the government, through the Bank of Tanzania, who is the regulator and supervisor, introduced the interest cap for microfinance institutions at 3.5. I know the cry out there is that microfinance institutions charge high interest, but for microfinance institutions, this has been a blow. It is kind of low, and it is really stifling microfinance businesses. We'll talk about that. I know it will be one of the questions, but that is the explanation I can give right now, that the 3.5% is not friendly at all, and it has been one of our advocacy issues, which we think, like any other financial institution in the country, 3.5, interest cap should not be determined. It is determined by the market, not by the regulator. It should be market-led. And then I know my friends from the Credit Bureau will not be happy when I say inefficient credit referencing, but to the sector, it is a challenge, because for the microfinance institutions, there are 2 credit bureaus in the country, and for microfinance institutions, they have to subscribe to both credit bureaus in order to have efficient data reference. And that is not funny, or it's not something we would want to, because it's expensive, it's a cost, it adds to our costs. So it's something which, as a policy issue, it has to be addressed. And then there are administrative directives which do not focus in the law at all or ever, but somewhere someone can just, give, directives to microfinance, and it is being implemented. I'll give one example. One example is that for microfinance institutions to sell confiscated assets which they've confiscated from a defaulted borrower, they have to pass through the district commissioner's office to seek for permission to do that. It takes time, it takes resources, and it's nowhere in the law. So those are the administrative, issues which just surface without, being referred from any law. And then one of the things I want to say on the challenges, so that we tie this very well when we are talking about the interest rate, is the cost of outreach and the cost of operations, the cost incurred by microfinance institutions. And I've said that reaching, the unbanked population, reaching the underserved, some of them are sparsely populated, some of them are in remote areas. These contribute to the high pricing of microfinance institutions. The other thing is that it also takes time to, to build a business model, a desirable or diverse business model, and that also causes high transaction costs. And then you see that the volume of transactions of microfinance is very small, but operating costs, transaction costs remain to be high. And in all, microfinance institutions are very labor intensive. Everything is done by a loan officer, and you have to hire a number of loan officers in order to work on this. And then the next challenge, I hope I've not skipped, okay, good. The next challenge is on KYC and identification. This has also been like a public cry where we see we don't have IDs. Some time ago, before our president emphasized on the postal addresses or anwani ya makazi, you cannot locate a client. It is, so this makes it difficult to follow up, to know where a person is originating and things like that. And then most of them, they don't have governance, leadership and management skills, and this is a big challenge when it is limited because it contributes to inefficient leadership and management. And the other thing is on skills and competency. Microfinance institutions, majority are very small institutions. So they lack, skills and competency in implementing microfinance activities. So this is one of the contributing factors when it comes to non-performing loans, to multiple lending and overborrowing, which I should underline because this is one of the challenges in the market of NPLs, non-performing loans, multiple lending and over borrowing, where people are borrowing from several institutions. And in order to combat that, a credible or a workable credit referencing is needed. And we see that microfinance also are not scaling up. The scale up of microfinance is also, but it's associated with loan capital funds. The source of funding is basically from mainstream banks or from, friends and family, and it has never been enough. So when microfinance institutions are struggling to have capital funds, that means also they cannot also invest on issues of like banking solutions or information system, which will also assist them in, you know, recruitment of clients, follow-up, repayments, and things like that. And lastly, but not the least, is the perception or image of microfinance. Although this has, well, it's more on how people perceive microfinance. And this has been distorted and misunderstood, and even the business model itself has been misunderstood. Why am I saying this? It's because people have, you know, some people have understood, like, let me put it, it's a place where they can borrow and they can run away. They can borrow and default. Even the digital financial services are suffering a lot because people know it's a matter of getting a loan, accessing a loan, and, you know, I get away with it. This is a very wrong perception because in my previous slide where I said, what are the financial sector? It's like any other financial sector. So it has to be respected, and people should know that they borrow and pay back. That's the only thing you can do. You walk into a microfinance institution, you borrow, and you walk back making your repayment. And people talk about the business model. Kwa nini wanaweka wamama kwenye makundi watu 10-20 kama ng'ombe, mwingine akiacha kulipa? But these women, as I said in the beginning, these are the people who don't have a collateral. The only collateral they can be serviced is themselves. Okay? So people should understand the business model. Why are we making weekly repayments? It's because from the assessment, this person, her income is weekly. And if you don't collect it weekly, you leave her for 2 weeks, she will never pay back. Because there are so many issues. She will get home, the baby is sick. She will get home, the house is draining, I don't know, the rain, and she wants to fix the roof. She will get home, there is an aunt in Tabora, amepigia simu, anasema huku hali ni mbaya. So all these have been planned. So people have to understand the business model before they sit and criticize what microfinance is doing. And there is a saying here, I quoted it from Mohammed Yunus. It's not very clearly seen, but Mohammed Yunus put it and said, this is not charity. This is business. Microfinance. Let me put, microfinance is not charity. Microfinance is business. Business with a social objective, which is to help people get out of poverty. I'm pausing so that it sinks. Okay? All right. Let me conclude my long presentation. My conclusion, putting it, given the importance and potential of microfinance subsector, advocacy through evidence-based studies is needed to address the challenges facing the industry. We need to, especially I'm speaking on TAMFI's side, where there are issues which hinder or are stifling the growth and expansion of microfinance. We still need to do advocacy. And policymakers and regulators have got to support the industry by providing a conducive and enabling legal and regulatory framework that promotes growth. Because microfinance is still at nascent stage. I know when I say nascent stage, a baby born in 1994 is no longer a baby, but nascent stage in terms of legal and regulatory framework. That's what I'm referring to. kama zimekuwa introduced in 2017 mpaka 2019 bado ni mpya. Kwa hiyo the regulators and policy makers have got to work on seeing how conducive it is. And then lastly but not the least, it's industry stakeholders to engage on self-regulations by promoting performance standards, transparency, code of conduct, etc. These are the players, the providers, the microfinance service providers. It's not only being regulated, you can also self-regulate. We check ourselves. What are we providing? What about issues of consumer protection? How do we conduct our businesses in a transparent manner? How do we set performance standards? How do we put a code of conduct where all the players in the market have got to adhere to? Those are the things which the players also have to contribute. And having said that, I say thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Tumpigie makofi. Sazmini amepiga lecture ya kutosha. Asante, karibu kwenye kiti hapa. Kama ilivyo ada yetu, kinachofuata sasa ni kipindi cha maswali. Kwa kweli mada ilikuwa nzito sana. Si ndio eh? Ya, tumeelewa vizuri. Ameweza kutuambia tamfi ni nini. Baadaye mimi nilisahau maana ya tamfi, lakini the Microfinance Institutions landscape, and lastly she discussed about the opportunities and the challenges facing the microfinance subsector. So from her presentation, we'll welcome the questions. So we'll pick the first three, and then we'll take the second round after that. Okay, so this first one, the second one, and the third one.
Where's the first one?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Madam, for your very good presentation. Personally, I really liked it. Mine actually is not so much on question, but just a comment. Actually, it is to add on your presentation that there is this behavior in Tanzania that a loan, it's like, what can I say? It's like msaada, or it's like, there is no that behavior that a loan, it must be paid back. And it's just a trend. You can hear from the very big media institutions. Unakuta mtangazaji kabisa, a presenter, he or she is saying that mikopo umiza, mikopo kausha damu, ndio inaumiza watu, and then he or she is supporting. Lakini it doesn't look the way back kwamba how this mikopo is helping the society. You see, there are people who have evidence that they have been rich because of from the small credits. Watu wameanza kupata mikopo ya kuanzia $100,000 mpaka leo mabilionea, they are there. Lakini kuna wale ambao pia walikopa $500,000 lakini wamedefault kwa sababu wanajipa sababu za uongo kwamba ni mikopo umiza, mikopo kausha damu. So what I want to say is this, for this big institution like Itamfi should also see how you can spread enough education to the public for them to know that it is very important to pay back the loan so that others can also borrow and others can also benefit from the loan, and not discouraging this kind of microfinance kind of business or business model. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, madam. Actually, my brother said there it's like a lecture, truly, because I was like feeling sleepy sometimes. I just wanted to sleep. Thank you so much. But my questions, like 3 of them, in the challenges you spoke about the perception of the people. You said people having this perception like if they take a loan, they default in their mindset. So I'm just trying to think, you as Tamfi, Tanzania Association of Microfinance Institutions, What were you thinking on trying to change the perceptions of the people? What will you do? You know, people have to be given something for them to be changed, their mindset. The mindset is everything. So people are thinking, okay, now we're taking this loan and we're not paying it back, and they got nothing to do to us, especially these digital platforms. I have my friends and I keep hearing them. They do take money and then they run away from it. So what's your way forward in terms of policies or whatever it is, but in addressing it, like my brother has said here? I don't know if it's uncle or brother, but he spoke it and put it very well. The other question is on multiple lending. I was just thinking, actually I'm a student here, I'm taking finance, and I am at my first year of studies, so I'm just a novice or exotic person when you're speaking to these things. But I remember I was taught something called loan refinancing. So someone have a loan and then he want to take a loan from another institution in order to pay the other loan. So you were complaining about people taking multiple loans. So are you against that, or there is another thing that's in the back of your mind? So that's my question. And on the collateral issues, I'm sorry, my questions are too many, but I really just want to get abreast with these things. My mother is one among of those women you were speaking who get to be put into groups and then they get to be given these loans. And you said that's the only collateral. I was just advising, yes, I'm young, I'm trying to think like these guys should do extensive reach out to these people and make sure that they have businesses that really, that money that they take have to be taken into those businesses and somehow like monitor them. I don't know if it will increase administrative cost, but you should try and see out how you could help these women. Most of them, they take this money, they buy ornaments, or they buy things which they go and use that money not on a business basis. So they keep getting troubles into paying them, and it goes on a larger scale, the family crisis, because of these funds. So those are my questions, the three questions: to change the perception, the multiple lending behavior of the people to take more loans, and the third is on the collateral issues. Thank you so much. My name is Ali.
Asante. Namba 3. Karibu sana.
Naomba naongea Kiswahili. Asante madam kwa representation yako, nimejifunza mambo mengi. Japokuwa nilikuwa na changamoto moja, jinsi gani wewe pamoja na members wako, yani members wa association, jinsi gani mnaangalia ili soko jipya la fintech startups ambao wanatumia internet zaidi kufikia soko kubwa sana la watu, ambapo kuna opportunity kubwa sana ya kuoffer credit, lakini unakuta our microfinance wanatumia to the old fashioned way, kwamba lazima mtu aende kwao badala ya kuinterlink na biashara zingine ukapata opportunity kutumia wale wateja wa zile biashara. Na mfano halisi, sidhani kama natakiwa nitaje kampuni, lakini kuna moja hapa kampuni ambayo inafanya vizuri, of course ni distribution company, lakini ilikuwa inataka kuoffer credit facility kwa wateja wake mangiz hawa ambao wanauza maduka, lakini ikaonekana ni challenge sana kwa sababu core business ya kampuni husika ni kufanya distribution, lakini kuoffer credit facility kwa wateja wadogo dogo ikawa ni shida, kwa sababu wateja wengi wanakuja kukimbia, wanafanyaje, wao hawana ile technique au uwezo wa microfinance jinsi gani wanavyoweza kucorrect debts na kufanyaje. Lakini ingekuwa vizuri zaidi kama hizi microfinance zingekuweza zina link up na hizi startups ili kuweza kufacilitate biashara kwenda vizuri, na hata wao wanaweza kujiongezea market zaidi.
Asante sana. Karibu bosi.
Karibu Mrs. Win kurespond kwa hayo maswali.
Asante sana. Nashukuru kwa maswali mazuri na very practical. Ya swali la kwanza was on loan. It was not a question as such. Nakushukuru kwa ajili ya contribution yako. Ulipokuwa na emphasize the issue or the point which I tried to make, kwamba loan is not charity. Mkopo ukikopwa unalipwa. Kukopa ni harusi na kulipa ni harusi. In microfinance tunasema hivyo. Sio matanga. Okay? Kwa hiyo it's true. Na swala la kwamba what are we doing? What are we doing as Tamfi? Nali tie na ile la perception. What are we doing? Government itself wametengeneza
Umeweka pale. Angalia kama sauti iko pale. Angalia kama sauti iko ni niwasha mic. Achana naye. wameingia kwenye group lending. By then groups zilikuwa zinakuwa na watu 50, watu 30, watu 40. Wamekopa kwenye group lending, wamegraduate, wameenda kwenye individual lending, na sasa hivi ni wafanyabiashara wakubwa. Kwa hiyo ni entry point.
Ukiingia kwenye group lending kwa sababu huna kitu, ukabuild assets, ukainvest, utagraduate. Lakini how do you start with collateral zero alafu upewe mkopo? Nani anayekuamini namna hiyo? Hata kwenye credit risk, hata ukienda polisi huwa hawajui mambo ya mikopo, lakini ukifika ukaeleza huyu sijui unajua alikopa ilikuwa namna gani, sijui tumeenda nyumbani kwake hana hata sufuria. Sasa ulimkopeshaje mtu ana sufuria? Yaani anaanza na hiyo na atashikilia hiyo atake hata kusikiliza tena kesi yako. Hebu niambie, huyu hana sufuria, wewe ulimkopeshaje? Kwa hiyo ina maana kwamba you have to have a collateral. System yetu haijafika mahali binadamu akakopa bila kuwa na collateral, something ambayo inakuback. Kwa hiyo group lending, naomba majibu yake yawe hayo. About fintechs, yes, tunafanya kazi na fintechs, na hata juzi tulikuwa Benki Kuu kwenye mkutano ambao walikuwa wana launch ni sandbox ya fintechs ambayo iko na FSDT anafahamu, ambao startups watakuwa kule na wana graduate kutoka kule, na ni microfinance institutions nyingi sasa hivi zinataka kutumia hizi platforms za fintechs and whatever katika kukopesha. Sio kwamba wataacha kabisa traditionally, lakini wataingiza component ya jinsi ya kutumia either digitalization, mobile, whatever. Kwa hiyo sio na members wa TAMFI niliongea nikasema kuna wale ambao pia wanakopesha digitally. Wao wapo na wapo wengi. Wengine wale wanakopesha simu tu, wengine wanakopesha assets, wengine wanakopesha pesa, wapo. Kwa hiyo it's a matter of doing both. We cannot like sasa hivi tu traditional microfinance imekufa. Market it has worked. Kwa nini unaidrop all together? Isipokuwa tutakuwa tunaendelea kuimprove. Sijui nimejibu maswali yote.
Thank you very much. Kwa kweli umepiga kazi. Kazi endelee. Asante sana. Nadhani kwa maswali kwa Mrs. Winnie tuishie hapo kwa sasa. Tunakushukuru sana, tumpigie makofi jamani, tumruhusu akakae. Katoa mada nzito na pia akajibu maswali mengi sana. Kwa kweli Mwenyezi Mungu akubariki sana. Hatua inofuata sasa hivi ni kuwakaribisha tena sponsors waweze kutupa maoni matatu kuhusu kile wanachokifanya, na sisi tuweze kujua tunaweza tukafaidika nao vipi. Naomba nikaribishe taasisi ya kwanza kwa sasa hivi ni NCCL Auditors. Karibuni mtupe maoni matatu kuhusu kile mnachokifanya. Karibu sana madam.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anna Baliyima from NCCL Auditors, a partner. I'm a certified public accountant and a registered tax consultant from TRA. We are a registered audit firm in Tanzania. We provide audit services, tax consultancy, bookkeeping, accounting. We prepare business plan. We prepare business plan for people who want to borrow from banks and microfinance. We also do financial advisory. We do payroll processing. Some people do not want to keep payroll in-house because some people are being paid higher and others being paid very small, so they wish to outsource. We do that. We do management consulting and entrepreneurship services. On the entrepreneurship services, we do train entrepreneurs on financial literacy. I think we'll talk later after this meeting, to help them to know how to keep the finances, how to keep the financial records, how to do compliance, because some people close business just because they did not comply with tax and they have a lot of penalties. So in our case, we train them on how to keep their records, how to comply, and things of the sort. We also do business management software, which we install, train, and support QuickBook accounting package. And we do company secretarial services. Karibuni sana. Our offices are located at Mikocheni, Warioba Road, opposite msikiti wa Mwinyi. Karibu na Palm Village. You're most welcome.
Asante sana. Pigia makofi jamani. Hawa watu wetu wadau muhimu sana katika kuendesha hii event yetu. Baada ya kuwasikiliza NCCL auditors, naomba pia tuwakaribishe Stanbic Bank. Watupe mawili matatu pia kuhusu Stanbic Bank, wao kama sponsors. Karibu sana.
Asante. Good evening, everyone. Naitwa Janet Mushi. The last time, I'm a University of Dar es Salaam alumni. Nimemaliza 2005. Asante sana, nimemaliza 2005. So, first of all, it brings back a lot of memories. And the fact that nimesimama hapa mbele inanikumbusha miaka ya nyuma when I was running around lectures, theaters, go from one classes to the other. So first of all, thank you for this opportunity, and it's an opportunity to be here to actually speak to you. My presentation later on will cover more in terms of how you need to show up, how do you need to prepare for the labor market. But in terms of Stanbic Bank Tanzania, we are a global brand. We have a 160-year-old financial institution providing financial services across Africa and all over the world as well. We have footprints in Africa, we have footprints in Asia, we also have footprints in UK and across other parts of the world. We offer corporate investment banking services. We also offer business banking and commercial services, but we also offer retail services when it comes to banking. When it comes to financial institution, we also provide employment in Tanzania. We are a credible and employer of choice in the industry, and we have hired a number of graduates from the University of Dar es Salaam. I myself being alumni of the University of Dar es Salaam. This year we also have to hire 12 graduates, and among the 12 graduates, 6 of them came from University of Dar es Salaam and other parts of the world. So I'm happy to talk about Stanbic. Asante. Asanteni. And 2018, we were here for career fair. I remember a couple of my colleagues and myself, we were in Nkrumah Hall. We also talked about in terms of how you need to show up and how you can be able, to showcase yourself and build your skills in terms of being a credible person, an incredible graduate for the work environment. As an organization, Stanbic, I think mnajua products zetu nyingi sana tulizokuwa nazo. Apart from investment banking, we also have our SME offering. One of it is in Pambanaji. I think majority of you will listen every now and then in the morning with the clouds. You'll see Pambanaji. We are offering to the SMEs, and I believe some of the graduates here will also graduate later on to come and employ themselves at SMEs. So it's very important to also understand how the industry is and how you can employ yourself, as a way that you can also offer different opportunities when you establish business to other people across the organization. I know also across the world as well, as we continue to provide and build economy in Tanzania. Apart from that, we also offer different banking services, be it depositing, be it also borrowing and lending. Executive Director pale aliongelea kuhusu mambo ya lending and borrowing, and I'm happy one of the graduates also spoke about, asked one of the question on lease finance, loan financing. So those are things that I'm happy to hear when I come to such environment, kwa kuona kwa vijana pia wanauliza such questions as collaterals. You have collaterals, you know, is this something as, you know, loan financing? So those are the things that you need to know, because when you go to the employment environment, you will need to be able to practice and to have that knowledge, especially when it comes to saving and, you know, the customers at the financial institution. So briefly, that is Stanbic, and later on I'll welcome more questions as my presentation comes later on. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and the last sponsors for this session will be the FSD Tanzania. Karibuni.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Samora Rupala. I work for FSDT at the Private Sector Engagement and SME Finance Development Manager. So I'm here on behalf of my CEO, and because we really value this event, which is very important, talking about policies, talking about microfinance, which has been part of what we do in this market. So FSDT stands for the Financial Sector Deepening Trust Tanzania. So our role in this country or in this market, we are the market facilitator. So I don't know whether we are clear when we say market facilitator. So we play a catalytic role. We work with the government and private sector to facilitate improvement of policies, legal and regulatory framework in order to improve the business environment for the financial sector to work properly in the country. That is one segment. The other segment, we also look on the financial infrastructure, because for those people with the low income that we have been saying here, for them to get financial services, we need to have adequate infrastructure. So we normally look on those and make sure that we support improvement of the infrastructure for those people to have access and use financial services. Again, we look on innovation. So I think we have been saying of collateral, other things like groups. So we need to have innovative sector for the financial service providers to reach to those people who are really poor and who really have low income, and especially the women and youth in the rural areas, because those are the mostly excluded population. So what we do, I think someone asked about fintechs. Yes, as FSDT, we have noticed that that is one of the innovation that is needed in the financial sector. So we have been promoting or facilitating the existence of those fintechs. Just this year, we facilitated the establishment of the Tanzania Fintech Association. It's called TAFINA. So we are housing that particular entity in order to coordinate the fintechs so that they bring more innovation in the financial sector. Then again, we are looking on capability. This is both for the financial service providers and for the customers, or for the users, or for the consumers. We know we have been talking other issues here, like our fellow the first presenter, saying there are so many reasons why people don't pay their loans. So we know there are issues of capacity. And Madam Winnie said about financial literacy. Really, those are some of the issues which need to be considered when you want to improve or to make the financial sector vibrant. So FSDT has been looking on that and trying to facilitate any intervention that is really building capacity or capacitating the market, being the consumers or the financial service providers. So on top of that, FSDT has been doing a number of surveys, national surveys. We have FinScope Tanzania. I think some of those people who prefer using data, whatever they do anything, they might have come across a survey or a study called FinScope. So this is a national survey which tries to scope and provide a picture of the users of the financial service in Tanzania and what are the key challenges they are facing in order to really use these financial services. So based on that evidence, that's where now we convene the policymakers, regulators, and other stakeholders to address those challenges, either through either improving the policies or the legal and regulatory framework. So that is what FSDT has been doing. And in terms of this event, I think, yes, we have started being part of this, and I think we'll continue being part of this in order to make sure that the youth, the women are able to understand anything regarding to the financial sector in order to improve their well-being. So for today, that is what I can say. Welcome to FSDT. We are at Masaki near Seacliff Hotel. So this year we'll be launching the FinScope. This is FinScope Tanzania 2023 because we normally do it after every 4 years. So we'll be launching the new FinScope study this year in the coming month, that is July. So I think we'll be able to know what has happened in the market since the last FinScope, which was done in 2017. Thank you, and thank you for those who coordinated this event.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. Okay, that was very brief. So we clearly understand what FSD Tanzania is doing. Okay, so we have already heard from 2 presenters, and we have also 2 presentations to go. But before that, you can take a very quick break of like 5 minutes. Yeah, just stretch yourself. You can stand up. For those who want to visit the washroom to this side of the building, just get out and head to this direction. You see the washroom. You can take a break for 3 minutes. Will be more than enough. Naweza tukasimama tuka-interact na kusalimiana kwa lugha rahisi zaidi. Sitategemea kumwona mtu amekaa. Hapo nataka niwape energize. Simameni kidogo basi. Kuna hapa tunajua mimi hawanifahamu. Unaweza kuja kuniuliza mimi ni nani? All right, so the 3 minutes are over now. We can come back for the remaining two presentations. So please, can we take our seats so that we welcome our third presenter. Okay, so we're waiting for the few of us to take our seats. Okay, so our third presenter is Mr. Edwin Urasa, who has experienced a lot about banking and microfinance, and is now working with the Credit Info. So he gave a very short speech some times back. So it is time now to give his presentation on microfinance institution and credit risk. Karibu sana.
Good evening again, ladies and gentlemen. So the presentation, I've got a couple of slides of which I might take quite about 24 slides, so I'll be quite quick. Please, you can note down anything that you like to ask me toward the end. But again, I'll cover more likely on Credit Reference Bureau in terms of its operation and an understanding of who we are, as well as the space around microfinance in terms of the usage reporting, and what are we observing in terms of the growth of the sector, as well as what are the key challenges. I will not refer them as a risk per se, but I would rather deem them as challenges which microfinance are facing. And also, I'll end up with something around some of the recommendations that we feel that could actually be adopted or advocate by specific ITAMFI and as stakeholders within the segment in order for them to be implemented. Yeah. Umeshaweka kwenye view. So Credit Info, basically we are a credit reference bureau regulated and mandated or approved by the central bank. We started our operation back in 2014. Wait, once you save it. You need to save it, I think, here first. And then you try. Yeah, so basically Credit Info, we started our operation. I mean, it's a global company, a private-owned company, headquartered in London. And of course, we started our operation in Iceland. I'm not sure some of you, if you know Iceland, where it is. It's actually part of the European Union. But it's a very small, tiny country, possibly less than Zanzibar in terms of, I mean, bigger than Zanzibar, but the population-wise, I think is less than Zanzibar, about 500,000 people. So we started around 1997, not long ago, but right now we are actually operating in more than 50 countries. In Africa, predominantly around Sub-Saharan Africa, West Africa, and as well as some part of North Africa. So this is a map footprint of our existence, I mean, across the globe. The reason why it started is quite very peculiar. The guy who started the company back then, he was a lawyer, and he was very, very frustrated in terms of some of the issues around supporting banks with underwriting and as well as the registering of defaulters. Like what most of you guys were saying earlier on, that many people take up a loan and then subsequently default. But again, it's upon the lenders to start chasing them in terms of getting those repayment. So in Iceland, there was no any credit reference bureau. For those of you who don't know Iceland, it's over there. I think, I don't know if I can be able to point it out. I think it's here. This one here. Above the United Kingdom. That's where Iceland is. So right now we are almost in 50 countries. But predominantly we are quite everywhere in East Africa in terms of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Sudan, and except the Djibouti and Democratic Republic of Congo. So in terms of the key milestone for Credit Reference Bureau in this country, in Tanzania specifically, we started in 2013. 2013. That's where the central bank approved us, giving us a license to start the operation. But of course, in 2014, we had the first digital lender, kama mnakumbuka if you recall, Empower, under CBA, Commercial Bank of Africa, followed by Jumo, 2015, and subsequent to that again in 2014 and 2015 as well, there was a banking and financial institution, Microfinance Activity Regulation of 2014. And subsequent to that, 2017, the BOT or the central bank mandated the usage of Credit Reference Bureau across the financial institutions. When we started operation in 2013, banks or financial institutions, regulated institutions, were only mandated to submit data. They were not required to do credit check prior underwriting of any risky asset. So in other words, I can say that in 2013, it was okay for you to submit data as required by the law. So for every credit a financial institution is granted, they were required to submit a copy of that file to a Credit Reference Bureau. But the regulation or the law was not actually mandating you as a lender to conduct a search prior underwriting such a credit facility. So this goes back to what Winnie was saying earlier on in terms of addressing the defaulter issues and the multiple borrowers. And I think I'll cover that, Winnie, in terms of why that we are seeing such a trend in microfinance and what's needed right now in order to address or to mitigate such a risk. So in 2013, banks were quite happy. They will submit data, but they will not use the bureau. But then in 2017, BOT realized that, okay, actually the level for non-performing in the industry was still deteriorating, was not improving significantly. Remember, there are about 3 or 2 core objectives of establishing a Credit Reference Bureau. In our market, one of them was to remove what we call as information asymmetry, meaning that at a point of underwriting or issuing a loan, a lender should have enough information about the borrower before granting a loan. Because in the past, if you remember, before the Credit Reference Bureau, if I'm a lender and I'm assessing your application, I could ask you, do you have any loan elsewhere? So it's upon you to disclose such information to me, for me to be able to make a well-informed decision. So the presence of a Credit Reference Bureau was actually to alleviate such information asymmetry, meaning that at any point, any particular lender or a particular financial institution, they're about to issue a loan, irrespective of the amount, they must be in place to know precisely as obligation of that particular loan applicant. So that was one of the key objectives why the Bureau was established in the first place, to remove the information gap between the lender and the borrower, so that at any given time, when there was an application, a lender must know precisely the level of indebtedness of a particular borrower or the creditworthiness of that particular borrower in front of them. So that was the first key aspect. Another agenda was actually to address access to finance, meaning that Winnie was talking of collateral. But how many of you guys have got collateral? Or how many Tanzania? We are 60 million, isn't it? How many of us have got collateral? So when you talk of physical collateral, irrespective whether it's movable, ni masahani, ni madishi, very few actually Tanzania do possess collateral. We don't have even a movable collateral register. So how are you going to ascertain ili dishi liko belong kwa Edwin Urassa? Sio unanielewa? So the idea of having a credit reference bureau was actually to counter that, to introduce what we call as a reputational collateral. Mnaelewa reputational collateral? When you speak of reputational collateral credit on a risk management framework, we are referring to your historical repayment behavior. You have a good credit history that can warrant you to get a credit line without having a physical collateral. Sio mnanielewa? Because that was another key agenda of why credit reference bureau were established. Of course, the others could be for the regulator to be able to monitor or to manage the financial instability within the country. There are quite a lot of other reasons, but these were quite two key important reasons. One of them is to address access to finance by removing what I've said earlier on, like physical collateral, to replace it with reputational collateral, meaning that you as an individual, your creditworthiness can warrant you at any given point to be able to get a loan or to get a credit line from any lender. And another one was actually, again, to remove the information asymmetry for lenders to be able to make a well-informed decision prior underwriting of risk asset. So that was 2017. So 2017, the BOT realized, no, we need to change. We need to make sure that not only the law requires you to submit data, but also the law should require you to conduct searches before issuing a loan. Situko pamoja? Sasa, then coming to 2019. 2019, that's where the BOT introduces a Microfinance Act. Mkipata muda, how many of you have ever visited BOT website? Mnaniangusha wadogo zangu. Mko finance hamjavisi BOT website? Come on, find time, sawa. Mkipata muda, naomba mvisit BOT website. Kuna key regulation nitaomba for those who wanted to work in banking industry. Make sure that you read what we call as a Banking Act of 2006. Sawa. Mkiweza someni, kama unataka kwenda upande wa credit, kuna regulation kama credit accommodation, kuna regulation kama management of risk asset. Zisome, zinaeleweka, ziko very simple, trust me. Those one will shape you in terms of your understanding of how the financial world works, especially on this part of the world. And of course, if you have time, you can go through the Microfinance Act. Zote hizi BOT ameziweka. They are all on their website. You can download them free on a PDF. You can go and have a read on them. So this one came into effect on 2019. Then in 2020, of course, we know COVID. The BOT again introduces some regulatory measures. And subsequently, now we are in a post-COVID period. I wanted to showcase this journey because it has an implication in terms of how the data has been migrating from 2013 up to 2015, up to 2022 or 2023 right now. So, I mean, where do we get our data? We get our data from conventional source or traditional. This could be digital lenders like Songesha, Mgodi, as well as from deposit taking commercial banks, all the data for anyone who has borrowed over there. We get also from non-deposit taking from TAMFI members who are microfinance. And as well as we get data or access from alternative data source, the likes of TRA, Brella, which is more on business information. We also obtain data from MNOs, of course, for digital lenders, more on KYC from NIDA and other suppliers. All of this, I mean, anyone who's got any information relating to KYC, nikisema KYC si mnaelewa, ile know your customer, zile personal information zako, your name, tarehe yako ya kuzaliwa, ID zako, all of that can be actually supplied to the Credit Reference Bureau. And of course, the financial data ni ile sasa data yako ya mkopo uliokopa, amount, interest rate, and so forth. So as of now, we are about we know Tanzania population took 60 million. So we are talking of at least 6.5 million customers that are currently sitting within our database. So that is equivalent to nearly 11% of the population, I would say. So that one again, as I said, TRA, we've access to TRA, Higher Education Student Loan Board, and of course the other data set as well. I've just mentioned a few there. But right now, Credit Info has at least 5 million records. But the key takeaway from this particular slide, I think is over here. Right now we are at a point whereby more people in this country have borrowed from digital lenders, the likes of Songesha and Empower, than conventional lending. Sio kama mnanielewa? Yaani tuko kwenye situation kwamba Watanzania wengi wamekopesheka kwenye hizi mikopo ya kwenye simu na hata hawana bank account. Sasa how? I think that's the key topic of our discussion today. How is that evolved kwamba we have so many people that have borrowed from digital lenders comparing to conventional lending. About 56% of that population is actually coming from digital lenders. And take a note, all of these one are non-collateralized loans. They range from 5,000 up to 2 million, 3 million people are borrowing that within the digital space. So I'll take you through, and again, it's a journey again, as I said earlier on. If you look over here, this chart, it shows you, it depicts two key items. One of them is the number of contracts that we have been receiving since the start of our operation, and as well as the number of customers. So you remember that journey which I was showing you in terms of how the Credit Reference Bureau has evolved, yeah? Kama unazikumbuka zile tarehe. Remember, the BOT started to mandate over here on 2017. So nakumbuka? Walivyo mandate to usage, angalia spike in terms of submission, and of course, most of them, they are coming from digital lenders. More digital lenders are able today to disburse loans without any collateral, as I said, up to 2 million, some of them maximum. And they are only using alternative data source. They are only using data yako ya kwenye simu, ile wallet tu. That's it. How many times have you done top up? How long have you stayed na hiyo simu yako? How many calls have you make? So many variables. And I think this speak quite volume to Consolata. Hongera sana kwa kazi uliyoifanya. But I wish she could have come as well to Credit Info. We could have given so much information as well. But I think you can also have a second phase of that research. We are more than happy to accommodate you and give you some more insight into this here. So what I'm trying to highlight here is, I think it's a spike you can see from 2017 to 2018. And more likely is contributed not by conventional commercial banks. It's actually digital lenders, as I said. Number of contracts now is almost 50 million. Number of contracts that have been issued by multiple institutions. Okay. And the growth on average for the last 10 years has been around above 30% in terms of year-on-year growth. And this again is the saddest part. I'm not sure if FSDT is just unfortunately they've just left the room. But I think this is where we need again some intervention, either from policymakers or from relevant authorities. And perhaps it's an area where University of Dar es Salaam could take a deep dive as well, do some research, try to understand why is this still the case. We have more 70% of all 6.5 million are actual male. It's only less than 30% are women. So I think it's something that require quite not only Credit Info, but collective engagement with multiple stakeholders to address it. There's still a huge gender imbalance in terms of access to credit between female and male. Okay. So our partner, all banks and all financial institutions, we are working with them. For MFI, I think I've touched on a regulation that are governing MFIs. And I was quite specific in terms of, in most cases, MFI always say, yes, we can submit data, but actually we are not supposed to be using. Actually, if you read the regulation, it says they are very straight that we shall access, MFI are supposed as well to use Credit Reference Bureau prior underwriting of any credit line. That again, we could address is a challenge that you are pointing out in terms of multiple lending defaulters. And the depiction, this one Winnie might not like it, but it's the truth. Actually, BOT has approved over 1,100 MFI. Go to their website mkienda. Wameweka ile Excel yao ambao zilizokuwa approved, utaziona pale. 1,134 as of yesterday, I think I was checking. But only 185 MFIs are currently subscribed to Credit Info. I don't know about the other bureau, DMB, but the number is still so low. It's about 16%. So again, this speaks to what we were saying earlier on. If they are not using the bureau, if they are not submitting data, then why are we wondering about defaulters on MFI segment? Why are we wondering about multiple lending within the segment? So that, I mean, that is the answer. MFIs, honestly speaking, they are not using to the, I mean, if you look at the number, it's not reflective of the actual usage or the subscription. So it's still very low. It's something that requires, again, to be addressed at industry level. Okay. So this, again, is something that I wanted us to pay a little attention, because there's another slide similar like this I wanted to highlight. In terms of, I mean, the MFI, I won't say much. I think we all know that they are issuing multiple sort of loans, unsecured, secured, SARA loans, you name it. But the key issue I wanted us to pay attention, I think, is on data source. MFIs are still traditional, I would say. Majority of them still using traditional data, like payslip, and of course the information collected on application. For SMEs, even them, some of them, they request the audited financial. They're still on collateral. Of course, yes, I understand that. I mean, from a risky point of view, I can see why many MFI will still prefer to get hold of collateral. And again, is a population, I mean, in terms of targeted segment, is still the same, through the door. Customer ambao wanakuja, how they do selective lending, they target a specific scheme, maybe government employee, then wanaweza wakawa na issue mikopo kwenye hiyo tu. Na ticket size, you could see MFI market is again below 500 could be a minimum, but we know that for micro loans, for MFI it's around 3 million. Some of them, they are going up to 200 million. Those we see huge capital because we are seeing the data being submitted. And also the tenor is always in maximum 1 year. Very rare I've seen that they can issue above 1 year. Very, very few actually, they've got such a capacity. But the interest, I think, is being capped at 3.5, which again, I will explain it on a later. Why is this again is a blocker to the growth of this sector? So coming to this, and then look at the digital lenders. If you look at the digital lenders, what you're going to observe is on a data source. Digital lender, most of them, they are based on non-characterized data, more likely from MNO transaction, application data collected, or any other alternative data sources to disburse their loans. Here I'm speaking as a facilitation fee, a very significant implication, because it's the moment you term it as interest income and you have a microfinance license, you are subjected to 3.5. But if I term it as a facilitation fee, all of you guys, how many of you have seen the the financials for banks? Remember the P&L, si mnakumbuka? You have your interest income, sawa? You will have your cost of fund, or interest expense. You minus, you derive to a interest expense, you derive to a net interest income, si ndio? Then you come and add what you call is non-interest income, si ndio? Sasa on non-interest income pale ndio wanatupia pale kila kitu. Facilitation, processing, everything will go to non-interest income. The implication of that is that when you call it as a non-interest income, actually you are allowed to take it up front, to recognize it at your initial recognition. Si mnanielewa? From accounting. Meaning that I don't need to wait for due date for me to recognize my earning kwenye hii transaction. If I term it as non-interest income, as facilitation fee or processing fee, I'm able to take it up front. Ndio maana kuna mtu hapa alisema kwamba songesha, wanakuchaji, unaomba 100,000, unaambiwa unadaiwa shilingi ngapi? Mshaonaga? Ukikuwa una qualify shilingi 10,000, wanakuambia utalipa 10,500 labda, si ndio? Wanakuambia utalipa 10,500, lakini in actual sense tayari wenyewe wanakuwa wameshachukua hela up front. That's what it happened. Wewe jaribu kuangalia siku yote, ukisema kwamba unaambiwa una limit ya shilingi 10,000, ukitaka kuiconsume ile limit ya shilingi 10,000, more likely itakuwa inclusive ya ile facilitation fee. So that's the main change where most of the players within digital lenders, and actually I would say it's unfair, because what happened is that they are leveraging on technology, which is again hard for microfinance. They are lagging behind within manual process, but these guys are coming up with the combined effort of fintechs and other provider for digital solution for them to be able to leverage on such a structural lending. So the idea, what I'm trying to highlight is that MFI are subjected to 3.5%, but if you go to these guys here, they're actually able to deviate from that by using a non-interest income component. Of course, the MFI could do that as well. They could also introduce non-interest income. I know they do have that, but I think is a key differentiator is the technology behind. Remember, when you talk of digital journey, it's convenience, it's faster, and easily accessible. Sasa MFI, sorry Tamfi, Winnie atakwambia, most of them hawana system nzuri tu wa kweli. Ukiwachukua 1134, most of them hawana system nzuri. So they can't compete with the digital lender. And that's where I think the gap is. So the transition now for MFI from current operational manual process to digitalization will actually cost them. I see that as a major challenge. If they are not catching up quite quickly, most of them will really struggle to survive. And the ramification of that from a risky point of view is not necessarily that you are behind the technology. You are also more likely to end up with rejects. You know, to end up with reject manake kwamba customer walikuwa decline somewhere, elsewhere, kwa sababu hawakuweza kupata via digital platform. Most digital lenders are using bureau. They submit data and they are using. So those who will be rejected there more likely will come up to the MFI, the one that are not using the bureau or they are not submitting data whatsoever. Okay. So this is a typical digital customer journey. We know that, there are 3 components. You have the funder, the one that will provide funding, who's typically the bank, or if it's a MFI. Then you have in between is a credit reference bureau, providing what you call as a credit scoring decision engine. And of course, on this side, you tend to have a combination of either MNO and fintech. Fintech, it could be, some of them they are local, some of them they are from outside. So that's a typical process. This is not available within the MFI. MFIs are still operating on a normal manual process. So when you log into your M-Pesa menu, hii ndio process most of the time, what is happening. Utatupiwa message, unaambiwa una qualify kwa shilingi 20,000, utaanza ku apply, si ndio? Kama haba ni Empower au ni Songesha, atakwambia kama unataka kusongesha, lakini by that time tayari wa KYC has been checked perhaps with NIDA, and then subsequently itakuwa cheki kwenye Credit Reference Bureau. If you have no any adverse information there, ile application yako itaendelea. It happens so fast. You can't even figure out kwamba imeenda kule imerudi imesha niambia anapata hela. Yani it's so quick, it's a real time, less than a few seconds. Kwa mfano sisi tuna capacity ya kuprocess TPS, transaction per second. Nadhani tumefikia 150 au 200 kama sikosei. Per second. We're talking of a second. Yani it's like your blink of an eye. Tayari zishaenda kwenda 150, system inaweza ku accommodate that. Sasa kwa MFI, the technologies they are using, we can't even speak. I think they need to embrace this, or it will be quite a challenge for most of them to survive. I can guarantee you that. Where we are going. So let me go to the next slide quickly because there are too many. This again is what when we say alternative data source, we are referring to our jamaa hapa from here. Anything that is not traditional, anything that is not coming from banking, is not coming from your normal typical banking activities or from bureau. It could be utility, could be from MNO, could be from your insurance, could be from your DAWASA or social media. All of that could be used actually to develop what we call as a credit scoring engine. A credit score basically is a mathematical tool that you use to ascertain your propensity to pay or your likelihood to default in the next 12 months. That's what we call as a credit score. So for anyone who has borrowed in any financial institution, more likely you have your score. Perhaps maybe with you too. There is a score for you. Okay. So the issue of interest capping, I think I'm aligned with what Madam Winnie she presented. It has to be removed, honestly speaking, because it actually impeding microfinance in terms of their core responsibility, especially to expand the access to credit and also to be able to meet some of the other operating costs. Microfinance, for instance, have also been complaining about the cost of the bureau, credit reference, and I think that is something that we are taking up when we see the regulator very soon. We've reached a consensus between the two bureaus, so there is a proposal that we are putting in place to be able to address that. But in the interim, we are providing very low what package I'll say to some of the microfinance, as low as 100,000 per month just to use the service. Okay, so this is what I was saying earlier on. The regulation confined microfinance at 3.5% interest. But if you compare to what digital lenders are doing on the same space, same customer, you can see actually it doesn't really add up. Meaning that you are telling the microfinance you are keeping their interest at 3.5%. So imagine if someone is telling you that. So I'm just giving some few assumptions. This is just an assumption, hypothetical assumption, guys. Yeah. So take the 3.5%. Yeah. Assume the cost of funds for that particular microfinance to source the fund is around the 2.5%. You can ask, why is it 2.5%? Actually, I'm using 2.5% because I'm trying to look at what is the return on investment for 35 or up to 90 days T-bill. I think it's around 2.5 to 3%, per annum. So I'm trying to ask myself, I know the 3.5 is per month. Sometimes people argue with you, say, 3.5 is per month, you multiply it by 12 is 42. Now, come on, how many microfinance are issuing loans for 1 year? Very few, you understand me? So if there are quite a few, they are confined within their liquidity spectrum, then it doesn't make sense to say that 3.5 you annualize it in 12 months and then you say 42. It doesn't work like that. I think Winnie can tell you that. Most of microfinance are supposed to be payday loans, especially for individual. If you take out SMEs, businesses. Meaning that for individual, I give you a loan today of 500, $500,000. I'm expecting you to pay me back upon your receipt of your salary. It's simple as that. It's a 30 days loan. You can't tell microfinance where they are struggling to access capital. You are actually telling them annualize at 3.5%. It's 42. So that's your rate per annum. And the banks or the commercial banks, you are saying now they are charging less than that. It doesn't work like that. Because if you look at the BOT monthly economic review, the overall lending rate was around 16.3 for commercial banks. But remember, the key issue what I'm trying to address here is that commercial banks, including digital lenders, they are actually operating within the same addressable population for microfinance. That's the key takeaway. So don't tell me about the 3.5 because these guys, the banks, they are coming within the same space where microfinance are operating. So in other way, you are telling me microfinance in one way or the other, they are subsidizing these big guys because they are coming within their space. They are able to charge more than that because they are not confined within the 3.5%. Si mnanielewa? Leo hii wewe, if you are taking a salary loan, what you call a salary advance, simshazisikia? I will not mention any particular bank. If you are taking a salary advance from any of the institution, the issue is you are getting charged maybe 5% or 6% or 7% per month. So, and you are being charged with a view that upon receipt of your salary or remitted, once your salary has been remitted to your account, we'll do a deduction. Sindio? Fantastic. Now, the same customer is actually, is part of that addressable population for microfinance. But you are telling microfinance, huyu jamaa, huyu mwenye salary advance, we mchaji 3.5%. Sindio? Kwa ule mwezi mmoja. Lakini huyu jamaa mwingine huku is getting away with it. He's charging more than 3.5%. So that's where the challenge is. Unless you assess it in a logical manner as this, on a profitability level, you might not really see the negative impact it has on microfinance. We have 85 microfinance. And when you talk to them, most of them, they are willing to use the bureau. But they are telling Edwin, we can't afford. We can't afford. So look out there on their profitability. Take 3.5%. Assume that they forgone the investment on T-bill. They go and issue, they go and underwrite a risky asset. You will end up with a negative equity. You end up with a return on risky weighted asset negative of around 737 if you are taking a ticket size of 100,000. Si unanielewa? But you do the same 100,000 on a commercial lenders. If they do, they end up with 4,000. Umeelewa? In this year, the costs that I've used here, for instance, is the cost of the bureau, is actually what we are charging. Look at the cost of funding. It's not hypothetical. It's something that I've aligned it to the investment on T-bills, which is a reflection of what could be the cost of funding for such acquisition of funds for microfinance. And also the loan loss ratio. This is a loan loss ratio. I've said, okay, let's keep it constant. Assume all of them, they are facing it. For every loan, they are underwriting 3.5% of that will get lost. So that's what it means. So when you look at it, actual microfinance, there is no way they will be able to survive, I can tell you, with that model. Unless otherwise they add more facilitation or non-interest income side of the equation. If they add more there, then yes, they can actually justify the 3.5 and able to survive. So it's like you are keeping over here on interest income, but then you are telling them, okay, you can come and do here whatever you want. Again, that again is not appropriate, if you ask me. Okay. So on a digital lender, for those of you who don't know, actually, this is quite something. Digital lender gross, who are using alternative data sources, the Songesha, the Empower, and so forth. You see that 282, that is 282 billion Tanzanian shillings. That was circulated in 2022. That was disbursed by the digital lenders. And actually, the exponential growth you are seeing is evident of why most of the banks now are actually venturing toward the digital lending space in combination with MNOs and the fintech companies. Because it's quite a market that is producing, of course, a higher margin, as I said, you were showing previously. And also, it's a market which, unfortunately, microfinance are there as well. So that's what I mean. That's what we'll continue to see in terms of why most microfinance will continue to see deterioration on their portfolio. There are quite a number of issues. Of course, I'll point out some of them here. So one of the recommendations that we've been making, we as Credit Info, is for fair terms and conditions between data aggregator and MFI lenders or digital lenders. Here we are referring to what we call as, of course, the price of the bureau, as we are saying that we'll be addressing that, coming to that. But also the revenue sharing. Most digital lenders are suffering because of some prerequisite condition from larger data aggregator. When we say data aggregator, tunaongelea wale watunza data wakubwa kama MNOs, of course the bureaus zipo na mtu yoyote. They are demanding significant percentage on revenue sharing. So what has happened is over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a spike whereby some of the MNOs are pushing for about 50% revenue sharing on interest income. So imagine you are the lender or the funder. You are providing the fund. It means that you are the risk bearer. And I'm asking you, because I'm giving you my customer, I need in return 60% of the interest income. So for every disbursement you are doing, if you are making a disbursement of 100,000 and you are charging an interest of 10%, which is equivalent to 10,000, isn't it? Me as a MNO or as a data aggregator, nakwambia out of that 10,000, ya kwangu mimi ni F6. Kwako hiyo ni shilingi 4,000. Umeelewa? Ndio maana unaona it's a big challenge as well. Then again, the challenge of this one is what will continue to impede us as a country when it comes to access to finance. More banks are becoming not interested in that avenue, and that's where the masses is. You understand me? 60 million population, about 55 million, I think, SIM card, according to TCRA latest data, if I recall correctly. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Out of that, I think unique could be maybe around 35 million. So, but we have only about 6.5 million Tanzania in a credit reference bureau. A country such as Kenya with lesser populations than us, they have about 20 million from the last data I saw. So again, if you really want to push inclusiveness, whether we are targeting women and youth and vijana na wanawake, or the increase of access to credit to the wider population, we need to re-emphasize on data sharing. Data sharing is critical. You can't talk of alternative data source or digital lending without having data sharing. We have now the Data Protection Act, which is good, the government waliweka, but I think many data aggregator, including those from the government, we are still operating in silos. Kila mtu anafanya kivyake. So perhaps it's high time again, we might need to have a data sharing commissioner in this country, perhaps, just to be able to coordinate that. And of course, fair terms, as I said. Fair terms will involve the fair and competition authorities, the BOT and everyone, to be able to understand those data you are holding are not your data, they are public data. And if you have to monetize, you have to monetize in a way that actually is supportive to the economic growth of a country. See kama tuko pamoja? So that's one area. Okay, another one again is a standard banking practice, and practice needed to be adopted. Again, on data sharing and usage. This is my own belief. Again, it's not I'm not reflective of credit info. What I believe is that if you have not conducted a search prior underwriting of risk asset, you as a lender, you have done reckless lending. And it should not be allowed by law to upload such a record upon default event of that particular borrower. Sio kama unanielewa? Yaani maana yake ni hivi. Kama wewe ni mkopeshaji na ukuwa umefanya check kwenye Credit Reference Bureau, basi akidefault hauruhusiwi kuweka data yako kwenye Credit Reference Bureau. It has to be reciprocity. Sio kama unanielewa? Why am I saying that? If we have to get away from moral hazard phenomena, I think most of you understand moral hazard. Because we can have moral hazard or adverse selection. Moral hazard is where a situation, mtu anabadilika behavior yake baada ya kumpa pesa. Sio unanielewa? Umenipa pesa mimi nimeondoka. Nimesha change my attitude and everything. I don't pick up the phone and all of that. Lakini when it comes to information for you as a lender to make a well-informed decision, but the bureau is there. Sawa. Sasa mimi inaniuma sana kuona kwamba wewe as a lender au microfinance wewe yote yule, you are happy kuja kumsubmit yule Mtanzania aliye default, lakini you are not happy kumwassess kwa kutumia bureau kabla ya kumpa mkopo. Si mnanielewa? Kama wewe kumwassess, basi watu ulichofanya ni reckless lending. Kwa nini unamlist huyu mtu huko? Ulimuongezea matatizo, si ndio? Ulimuongezea matatizo, unataka kumuongezea mengine. So what I'm trying to highlight here is something that has to be relook again in terms of when it comes to affordability assessment. It has to be by law. You must check the bureau. Of course, the law is there. It says you must check the bureau. But we know that, as I said earlier, most microfinance are not doing that. Commercial banks are doing it, I can tell you. But most microfinance buy the data winning. Most of them are not doing it. Okay. So then another one again, ethical principle. I think you have, as I said, is relating to reckless lending. Of course, the protection of consumer. Regulatory incentive. Again, removal of 3.5% is much needed. Support of strategic initiative. Again, we need a collective, all of us, stakeholders, government and everyone, for the likes of Credit Reference Bureau to have enough data set to be able to provide to the respective lenders or underwriters. Okay, the last one again, this again speaks to key initiative perhaps the government might look at. Largest population of the Tanzania are still using 2G. Na nadhani serikali inafanya jitihada nzuri sana jamani kwa ajili ya kumove watu kwenda kwenye digitalization. Mmeona budget iliyotoka. Serikali imepunguza ile fiber optics ya per 1000 kilometers, ndio? Wamepunguza size, imetoka 1000 imekuja 100, which is good. It will promote more investor kuja kuinvest kwenye hiyo segment ili tuwe na more fibers across the country. But also it will address the issue of mobile device. More mobile device, I believe that will become available even in the rural area. Kwa sababu kama mimi nakaa kijiji labda kiko Shinyanga, amna internet, mtanunua smartphone ya nini, si ndio? Sababu wapo wakulima kule ambao wana uwezo wa kununua smartphone na wakakopa akapata, lakini sasa kama kutakuwa hamna accessibility ya internet, anaona why should I have a smartphone. Lakini use smartphone transition itatusaidia sana kuweza improve digitalization. Participation of supply and off-takers, here I'm referring to supplier kama Coca-Cola's, wote wana data za wafanyabiashara mbalimbali. They need as well to be part of the ecosystem. But there's a willingness from that private sector, I'll say. We have spoke with quite a number of them. There's a willingness. And also the government is continuing to support us. We are working very closely with the central bank, and the central bank have been a good advocate in terms of the Credit Reference Bureau to get the access to alternative data sources. So that is a plus. Again, I think that's the last one. I'm Edwin Urasa, and that's my contact. Unfortunately, I don't have enough business card from Credit Info. We are located at Tanzanite Park, floor number 8 pale around Victoria. So karibuni sana, asanteni.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Edwin. You can sit here. You can just pick one question for him to respond, and then we'll allow other questions later on through networking and discussion. Okay, so I've seen 2, So okay, I'll go with the 2 questions, no problem. Start here, the second one.
The focus is on MFIs, but when it comes to commercial banks, which all of them are using credit bureaus to do the screening of their customers, what has been the trend now in terms of defaulters after they have been using the credit bureaus? That is one. And 2 is for the mobile companies which also providing loans, that segment below the 2 million, that's are not using any collateral. What have you been observing as the trend in terms of defaulting? Only those, thank you.
Asante. Swali la pili. The second question. Okay. Karibu.
Thank you, Mr. Edwin. That was a very beautiful presentation. And I have 2 questions. The first question is, how does the Credit Bureau ensure the accuracy of the information or the data that they collect? The second question is a question plus an observation. You mentioned the potential risks towards microfinance institutions, a risk caused by the spike in digital lending. What do you think are the risks to the overall financial system because of this spike? Because from my point of view, if the risk towards microfinance institutions is greater and they are having a difficulty coping with the fast changing financial lending landscape, and they potentially face the risk of being wiped out. These microfinance institutions source finance from somewhere else.
Yeah.
They borrow funds so that they can lend funds. That's essentially how the system works. So if these microfinances fail, someone else is also going to feel the pinch. And I'm curious to know what is your observation or your opinion on how far this implication has to the financial system in Tanzania.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. CEO.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the first 2 questions around, the first one was defaulters trends on commercial banks. The defaulters trends actually right now, I'll say there is a significant improvement. If you go back to 2013, if I recall correctly, I think the industry average non-performing loans rate was way above 11%, 12%, something like that. Right now, the latest, if all of you are recalling, I think it's around 9%. That was published end of last year. from what I know, industry performance in terms of the NPL ratio. So the commercial banks have been able actually to leverage on existing bureau infrastructure. And the good part, as I said earlier on, is that most commercial banks, or I'll say all commercial banks, are vigorous, active on a bureau. I can tell you that. I mean, a default could happen for many reasons. It could be some other subjectivity. It could be unforeseeable event. We have seen during COVID. If you remember during COVID, none of us could have foreseen that, didn't you? But when COVID came, quite a lot of sectors that were impacted, tourism, hotel and restaurant, and many commercials that were operating within that space were also impacted, and subsequent their books as well. But the good part is that the commercial banks, and I think this I'll speak more to what Winnie was saying, we need more regulatory framework, I think, around the MFIs. When BOT intervene, they are intervening with measures, with certain monetary tools. If you remember during COVID, they intervened, and the intervention was actually quite helpful. They provided leeway on capital and some other avenues, and commercial banks were able to leverage on that, to be able to restructure some of their accounts, to be able to undergo some forbearance programs with their customer, and hence to mitigate significantly the impact on their bottom lines and of course the capital itself. So commercial banks are very active, I'll say. They are quite significant usage from our end, commercial banks, I'll say. And commercial banks, even when they are engaging in digital lending. For instance, Songesha, we remember ilikuwa ni Vodacom, Tanzania Postal, kama mnafahamu. Ilikuwa ni engagement ya namna hiyo. Sasa hivi nadhani wanafanya na Finka. So during that journey, I can precisely tell you that Tanzania Commercial Bank were submitting data, they were using the bureau frequently. And up to now, even those lenders who commercial banks which are engaging within the digital lending space, with other fintech companies, MNOs, they are very active on using the bureau. The challenge which I'll continue to re-emphasize is that microfinance are not active within that space. And the customer which are being addressed within the digital environment are also microfinance customer. Because we are seeing over here, I mean from our end, to have 1,000 above approved microfinance and only 185, that's very low. That's very low. So to your answer, I think the default rate is stabilized quite a lot recently comparing to previous periods, if you compare that. And on MNO, in terms of for non-collateral, this is it's a very interesting topic, and actually I will request, if possible, I don't know, anyone from University of Dar es Salaam can pick this as your research area in terms of the impact of digital lending in Tanzania on a 3 or 4 key areas. On a default rate, you could look at that, and also on a dissolution of microfinance, meaning that microfinance exiting the business. I mean, how the digital lenders have actually impacted business operation of microfinance in this country. How many of them have managed actually to shut down their business? It could be because of interest capping, but it could be as well because of the activities within the digital lending space. And of course, you could also add the access to the bureau, how that has helped microfinance. We can do what we call as back testing. If someone can supply us, any microfinance, if you can supply us with data of those who have defaulted, who as a credit reference bureau will be able to do what we call as a retrospective assessment, like a back testing. Taking your data, we go back prior to underwriting to see how those customers were reported, and then to justify whether you ended up issuing loans to defaulters or not. Sio kama mnanielewa kwamba tunachukua ile data yako, wewe unatuletea portfolio walio default. Tunasema okay, hawa walio default 1,000 tunawarani kwenye bureau. Tunaangalia wale 1,000 kabla ya kupewa mikopo na wewe walikuwa na perform vipi. Umeelewa? Ili tuweze kujustify kama walikuwa ni good customer au bad customer kabla hujawachukua. Kwa hiyo we do those sort of assessment. We do our subscriber, and actual commercial banks are very active on that space as well. We call it like a benchmark report or benchmark assessment. We can do that for you. I mean, for any microfinance, if they request such undertaking. So I mean, to answer your question in terms of no collateral default trend, Actually, quite interesting. If I tell you some of the portfolio from digital lenders, they are trailing below 5%. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them. Some of them below 5% NPL. And the NPL depend on how you define NPL. And non-performing is your default point, isn't it? So if you define your default point at 60 days or 90 days, most of digital lenders, they actually define is their default at 60 days. And I can tell you, there are portfolio, I cannot mention, cannot disclose that information in public. There are portfolio within the market who are currently within the digital lending space. They have below 7, below 5, some of them are sitting at 7, very comfortably, below the industry average, which is 9%. So, I mean, what I'm trying to highlight here is that you can disburse or underwrite a risky asset loan, micro loans. I'm speaking of micro loans using alternative data. In absence of collateral, you can actually extend a credit line to some individual, I mean to Tanzania. Watanzania wanakopesheka, kiniuliza, I can tell you. It's just how you do it. I mean, there are quite a lot of mitigation, different strategy or policy rules you may apply. You might apply different data points in order for you to assess someone. And depend again on your risk appetite. Depend on many factors, moving elements, ambazo zinaweza kukusababishia ukaweza mteja asilipe au asilipe, including multiple lending, how indebted are they. You can only use a bureau to ascertain such accuracy. Sasa nadhani nimekujibu maswali yako yote mawili. Okay, on your question over there, in terms of accuracy of information, I would like to put a caveat here. If you got a chance, download from the BOT website a Credit Reference Bureau regulation of 2013 and take a look on section 39, subsection 1 and 2, I think, if I recall correct. If you take a look at that, there is what we call as indemnification clause. Indemnification, we as a Credit Reference Bureau, we are indemnified by the law so long as we have processed the data received from the data provider accurately. So when it comes to accuracy and completeness of the information, it's a responsibility of a data provider. Sio kama tuko pamoja. Yule aliyeniletea data mimi ndio anaweza akajua accuracy wa ile information mimi nayo hold. Kwa hiyo kama wewe ni benki A uli collect data ya Edwin Urassa, wewe ndio unaweza ukawa unajua Edwin Urassa alikuja pa physically na fingerprint zake na hiki na hiki. Mimi ninachoona kwangu ni data tu. Sio, mnanielewa? Japokuwa sitaki kutumia neno unaweza kusema garbage in garbage out, lakini that's not the case. But what I'm trying to highlight is that the accuracy and completeness of information is the responsibility of a data provider, not a credit reference bureau. And in terms of the exponential growth relating to industry systemic risk, as you said earlier on, this is something that within is a mandate of the central bank. The central bank on a periodic basis, we as a credit reference bureau, we are obliged or mandated to submit data, periodic report together with all banks. And the central bank is, they've got a specific section within the banking supervision looking at all this systemic risk. Yes, the risk could be there, but I think it's quite manageable, and central bank is in control of this one. So to me, I cannot comment further than that, but I can tell you, yeah, it's a very stable segment, honestly speaking. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Naomba tumpigie makofi. Fanya kazi kubwa sana. Asante sana Edwin. Okay, before we go to the last presenter, let's also hear from our sponsors. Now we have Zan Securities. Karibuni sana. Yes, karibu.
Hi everyone. Good evening. Kwa majina naitwa Aisa Omari and I work at Zan Securities. Zan Securities is a licensed dealing member of the Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. So just as TIB Rasilimali, but we're also fund managers and investment advisors. So we are a proud sponsor of this event, and it's truly an honor to be part of this event consecutively, which brings together bright minds and industry professionals. So today I'm standing here before you because I want to share a quick message which I feel like is really important, especially for the youth. The significance of investing in the capital markets and the tremendous opportunities that are available also in the capital markets. So I don't know if you know, but we're living in a time of a lot of, how do I say this, opportunity, right? In different areas, but I'm going to go specifically in the capital markets. And you might be wondering, like, why should I care? You know, why should I even worry about these opportunities and whatnot? And the reason is the power lies in investing, right? The power of investing. Investing in the capital markets, it allows you to become an active, how do I say this? An active player in the development of the nation. But not just that, it also allows you to reach your financial independence. I mean, how many of us want to be financially free? Yeah, I don't want to have to worry about somebody having to pay me at the end of the month. I want to feel, or I want to know that I am receiving this much from investing in bonds. I want to receive this much because from dividends, because I've invested in a particular share of a particular company. You know, but it's not just financial independence, it's also the creation of wealth, the accumulation of wealth, and the realization of our dreams. I believe every single one of us has dreams and aspirations, and it's kind of difficult to reach your dreams if you don't have the financial means. So, in Tanzania, we have witnessed a lot of transformation in the capital market space. The government and regulatory bodies have, how do I say this, have applied a lot of robust measures into ensuring that not just, you know, for investor protection, but also to enhance transparency within the market and to promote fair market practices. But talking about the present opportunities that are available, right now I can say that the market has a very fertile like niseme land or something that can enable you to reap a lot of benefits. You know, leaving aside the actual returns in quantitative forms that you can make from the capital markets, I'm not just talking about your coupons from bonds, I'm not just talking about dividends from shares, I'm talking about the means to the ends. We've just seen right now how we have a lot of innovation, right? Digital inclusion and whatnot. This is also being applied in the capital markets. For example, before, let's say maybe 10 years ago, mtu anaishi kijijini kule, they couldn't have invested in the capital markets without actually having to come to Dar es Salaam. But now we have the mobile trading platform of the DSE, right? You can be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and you can still invest in our capital markets. But however, seizing these opportunities that are available is going to be difficult if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the information to empower you to make informed decisions. So as an aspiring investor, what you need is to make sure that you keep learning, keep getting these skills, keep educating yourself, and also seek the advice of financial professionals. For example, us at Zan Securities, I mentioned that we do investment advisory. This is completely free. You can call our number and ask any kind of question you have about the capital markets, and we will be happy to provide you with that information. But it's not just for individuals. I remember Miss Winnie? I think she had mentioned that microfinance institutions, some of them might lack the know-how or the skills of how to navigate through the financial markets. Well, at Zan Securities, we also provide training to corporates. So even if it's a microfinance institution, even if it's a registered company, we are open, and we're very, how can I say this, eager to provide this kind of information. So it's another thing we should note is that it's not just about individual success. It's about the collective impact that we can make together. Because, as more individuals embrace the capital market space, it uplifts the economy in general. You can create job opportunities. Imagine you're somebody who has learned about the capital markets, and maybe let's say you go into actually becoming an investment advisor. You can open your own firm. You can hire graduates. There's a lot of opportunities, not just for us, but also for the economy in general. By channeling our financial resources into the right avenues, we can uplift communities and support local businesses and drive sustainable development. About your future. I know that you might be young today and you're like, oh, I'm just 18. I just arrived. But you didn't just arrive. Even if you did just arrive, just know that your future is literally like it's in your hands, and you are the creator of your future, and you are the only person that can enable yourself to reach your dreams. So what is the first step that you can take? We're actually passing around some papers which have a QR code. We have a WhatsApp group for the public. So in this group, we actually encourage a lot of people to ask as many questions as they want, share any kind of information, within the, not just capital market space, in the financial market space in general, just so we can have open discussions and so we can try to help ourselves understand this space even more. So I encourage you to join the group. We have daily updates about how the market has been performing. And, it's good to, it's really easy to learn when you are surrounded by like-minded people. That's what I believe. So again, we would like to thank the University of Dar es Salaam Business School. Thank you, Dr. Swai. It's always an honor to come here and to sponsor and to speak. I'm seeing some familiar faces, so that makes me really happy. And thank you all so much for your time and attention. Together, let us seize the opportunities that lie before us and build a brighter future for Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for a brief. Jamani, hao ni sponsors, tuwapigie makofi vizuri. Turudie tu. All right, but also we have sponsorship from Watumishi Housing. Okay, our sponsors wao wanatoa hela tu. Leo wameshindwa kufika, si ndio eh? Jamani, Watumishi Housing pia ni sponsors wetu. Sawa, tuwapigie makofi kwa lipo. All right, so we are good now. We have one presentation to go from Janet. Karibu sana. Utupe presentation kuhusu Graduate Employability in the banking sector. Hapa wataamka hata kama walikuwa wanasinzia.
Asante. It's sad that I see very few people. I was hoping that I could see more. And I was a bit worried. Nilikuwa naona watu wanaondoka. I remember back in the days when I was at uni, mimi nilisoma political science and public administration with double major of sociology. I was one of those active. Ukisikia kuna career fair, ukisikia kuna IS wamekuja, ukisikia kuna any activity, I was very active. And the good thing ni kwamba pia nilikuwa na marafiki ambao we used to pull each other kwenda kusikiliza na kujifunza something new every day. So I was really hoping to see some of the seats pia zimekuwa filled na watu. In that way kidogo ungeona kweli kuna motisha and people are curious to know and to know what is happening outside the world. Ni muhimu sana kwa sababu the moment tuko shuleni we are so consumed kwenye masomo. All the time lectures, and sometimes we don't know what to do with our free times. So it's very important for you to identify what exactly do you do when you have a free time. And why I'm saying this, because I know unless maybe lectures ziko tofauti, back in the days you will have a lecture in the morning and then you'll be free the entire day and then perhaps even have another lecture in the afternoon. Even though you spend your time in the library, but still you have an ample time for you to also be curious and do other things. Okay, so let's use, and again, doctor, na walimu wengine, and fellow students, a graduate student, urge yourself, let's use the time wisely, especially when you're at school, because I wish somebody told me when I was here, but very few people told me, and I came to discover it quite more nilivyoenda kwenye employment, that I needed to use my time to learn new things. So my presentation today is pretty much to talk about how you should prepare yourself for, you know, the job market. I'm going to touch on a number of things. One of it is for you to be aware what is shaping, you know, the work environment, especially in the financial institution. What are the world trends? How you should prepare yourself. But also, what do you need, you are required to do always, okay? I like the fact that, you know, Zan Security, sorry, I forgot your name, you really spoke about in terms of how people use their time, and you should always continue to learn. I'm going to touch more and more on this aspect because we need to be able to create a culture and build graduates who are curious to learn, who are curious to add extra skills, especially when they're at the university, okay? So I'm going to start with the world trends. And when I talk about the world trends, I'm going to start with a video. I think you saw the question. Will our children be ready? I'm a mom. I have 2 boys. The firstborn is 14, going to 15. And every time I see where the world is heading, and I wonder, my son Thierry, will he be able to keep up? And this is where we're heading. And I don't know how many parents or how many teachers have these discussions or this conversation with the students. This is not to scare you, but just to give you an idea that today, as we're speaking right now, Edwin, I think we will know, when you go to Sweden, very few people even use money around the world. People don't even use, they don't work with cash. People don't use ATM, they go to the bank, you know, they don't even access financial institution to walk in. Our clients, like a former MD, a number of people in the bank today, they'll say, I hardly go to the branch. What does that mean? It means the traditional jobs that you are expecting, or perhaps you're aware of, will not exist in the future. This is something that you should always remember. The traditional job will not exist in the future. You need to be able to embrace and have skills that you can be able to use in the future. I know mtakuwa mmeona marobot, mmeona what is happening in terms of Amazon, lakini reality is sasa hivi mimi niko Dar es Salaam. I can order anything in America. Amazon can deliver quite quick, and everything it can come to Tanzania. Okay? And he used artificial intelligence. And sometimes, I know most of you use social media. Mkiingia kwenye Instagram, mkiingia kwenye several portals, they tend to suggest for you several things and you're not aware. Huyu mbona ananitumia hiki? Mbona hivi vinakuja kama as a like in terms of you explore kwenye Instagram? Because the artificial intelligence behind it, tayari wameshajua wewe ni nani, unafanya nini, na ni vitu gani ambavyo una prefer. Okay? And these are machines. So we need to be able to keep up and to have digital skills that you can be able to use behind. I'm not saying that human interaction will not be there. Definitely human interaction is there. But when human interaction we have, we need to be able to have human interaction with the right skills. And this is what, the world is heading. If you look on the data on World Economic Forums, I don't know how many of you know about World Economic Forum, you follow the trends. Currently, we are in the 4th Industrial Revolution. I think they're also talking about the epic that is also coming. This year, in July, there will be, I think July 4th or something, there will be another summit. They will talk about the trends of the world, the skills that you need to have, and what is shaping the world economy. And people becomes a really, really key things that people talk about, especially when we talk about a global economy. Okay, so we need to be able, you need to be able to know what is shaping the world. Employer wa sasa hivi anatafuta nini? And when I talk about employer, I'm not speaking about employer ambaye ni traditional Tanzania. We are talking about investment. Mama amefungua mipaka sasa. We have a lot of investors coming to Tanzania from abroad. But what skills do they need? They need to be able to hire people who are able to perform, who are able to have the right skills ambazo wataweza for them to be able to achieve the goals na to meet the revenue ya wao. They need to be able, policy ya BOT ikija ikiwaambia inabidi umuhaye wazawa. Wale wazawa lazima wawe na skills. Otherwise, they will definitely think about, I need to go and hire other people from different countries. But we want to prepare you for you to be able, if whoever investor is coming, that you're also able to keep at par, okay? To understand that I can also be confidently deliver with the investor. Apart from, the social skills or technical skills that you have, but what other skills you need to consider? And one of the key skills that I'll talk about is, the aspect of technology, embracing technology literacy. And when I talk about technology literacy, it means digital skills. It's not about you going to Instagram or you going to using different portal, but for you to be able to know and to use it wisely. Okay? And for you to be able to use, I know most of you go to LinkedIn, let's say YouTube. Go there, embrace new skills, understand how you can use YouTube to learn a different skills. I'm going to give an example. One of the hot skills that we are looking right now in the banking industry is an auditor from financial institution, auditor for background, but with the technology. And an auditor with technology. So imagine that skill. I don't know kama mmeshaanza kufundisha that skill here at the university, doctor, lakini tukianza kutafuta auditor, an auditor who can be able to, be hired very quickly is an auditor with technology skills. Kwa sababu ataweza kuingia na maneuver within the different technologies na kufanya auditing. The traditional manual process ya kumove kutoka hapa na pale, makaratasi. Most of the employer are moving, out of that. If you see some of the challenges na vitu ambavyo tunatakiwa to keep at par is the issue kama za Credit Reference Bureau, and we need to be able to have our processes, our systems together. So someone with also technology background or the digital skills will do quite well, especially in the financial institution. And I'm not telling you to scare you, but also it's opportunity for you to embrace. There are different opportunities online that you can use, like YouTube. You can use Udemy. I know there are a number of, I think Moodle or something. They offer massive online university content. Go there, jifunze kitu kipya. Okay, apart from what you have right now, apart from what you're studying, jifunze kitu kipya so that it comes in as an added advantage. Another skill that I'm going to talk about is also customer service orientation. Very key, because on the financial institution, or what is changing in the world trend, is the customer demand. Customer is the one who calls the shots. Okay, customer centricity is one of the key things. If you understand the customer as an organization, you're delivering to the customer, meaning you're generating revenue, because that customer will keep on coming to you every now and then. Okay, so whenever we are hiring, we're always looking for someone who can understand the customer centricity, who can be able to smile. Always remember to keep up par with the customer. And when I'm talking, I'm giving an example, and I'm going to give a very good example, maybe a very practical that can relate to you. Umetoka hapa, umeenda benki flani, sitaki kumention benki flani, and again, that's what differentiates us with the other banks. Benki flani, and in that benki flani, umekutana mpaka uje kupata huduma, kile teller au mtu mwingine anakuambia, kwani hapa kuna nini? Au unanisumbua? Au kitu gani? Au maybe he's not even paying attention to you. Either way, eventually mimi nitaondoka. As a customer, right? I will pull away. But if you're able to treat, karibu, aje nikupe huduma gani, kuna huduma hii na hii, with you, I'll give you all the service on time, that customer will keep on coming to you every now and then. So customer centricity is one of the key. And this is one of the skills that we are lacking sisi kama wa Tanzania, because we are not wired like that. Sometimes you will find mtu atakwambia, ananisumbua. Mteja amekuja ananisumbua au labda simsikii. But that's not the way. When you consider a customer first as an organization, as a person, you're able to deliver, you're able to excel, you're able to generate more revenue, but also presence, your brand keeps on growing higher and higher. So this is one of the really, really, really key skills that we always test and we always hire for. Another skills that we always, shaping the world is more about motivation. Another key things that you will see there is more about big data, how people can use big data, and so on. And when you look about these 10 skills, it tells you that people need to have the aspect of the resilience, to think outside the box, to be able to be flexible, but also to understand. Primarily, the most important thing is the customer trend in the world, the way it's changing. Another key thing that I also want to talk to you is that what exactly that is shaping financial institution, especially when you reflect ours, And the financial institution, I want to take you to this video very briefly, because this again speaks about how the banking and the retail sector is changing.
A decade goes so fast. Within the last 10 years, technology's changed the way we bank, mostly connected to our phones. But by 2030, the everyday banking experience could be entirely virtual. By then, more than 2 billion people will have digital bank accounts on digital platforms. And just 20% of so-called heritage financial services firms will have survived. Some banks will be completely virtual. Facilitated by open banking, fueled by data stored and shared on the cloud, and made faster and safer by blockchain technology. If you want, you'll be able to get the equivalent of a private banking service, as data aggregators cross-reference your spending habits with other parts of your online life, from your travel plans to your social media interactions, creating a unique profile for your bank to provide you with bespoke services. Look forward to an AI-powered virtual banking assistant, handling payments, investments, and instant transfers at the command of your voice. As banks begin to get more personal, so will the ways we pay. In the future, cash is no longer king. Instead, paying with your phone or wearable will be the status quo, rendering physical cards unnecessary. 60% of financial organizations are expected to make wearables a common payment method. Physical shops will still exist, but the way you pay will change, with money changing hands virtually, in real time. Cryptocurrencies may rival cash, with an estimated 200 million blockchain wallet users by the end of this decade. And many currencies could digitize and even decentralize, simplifying travel and trade. But none of this will happen if security isn't every bank's #1 priority. Protection against cybercrimes and fraud will be powered by predictive analytics and artificial intelligence. Home to 350 specialists manning state-of-the-art cyber defense tech, Santander's new Global Cybersecurity Center shields customers 24/7. PINs and passwords will be a thing of the past. There'll be much tighter security thanks to instant biometric verification. Santander's rolling out biometric recognition for millions of customers, including voice recognition in Europe and Latin America and fingerprinting at ATMs in Brazil. The pace of technological advancement means making precise predictions for what we can really expect for the future of banking rather difficult. But it's certain the service will be personalized, practical, platform-based, and predominantly online, as well as seamless, speedy, slick, and super safe.
So what does this mean? Just to scare you again, this is what's shaping the financial institution. And I also wanted to be aware of that, is that even though that we have a number of evolution that's taking place, the bank keeps evolving every day. And the aspect of mobile, services and everything is available now. But the different risks that you should also be aware, especially the aspect of presence of human presence behind the scene, behind the artificial intelligence. It's very important to be there. But the human needs to be able to have, again, the right skills, needs to be ethically correct. Okay? And ethically correct, but at the same time, for us to be able to ensure that we have, control the risk culture. And another key aspect is to be able to understand and know that we need to keep all the securities together, especially when it comes to threat of the technology. Dunia inavyozidi kwenda mbele, the more threats are coming. So again, the aspect of having human presence with additional skills who can be able to have more and more skills outside of the norm, it helps because they're able to think and can be able to detect whatever risk is coming ahead. So I wanted to share that so that you can see what is coming. So in the financial institution, again, the customer expectation is one of the really key things that I mentioned. The customer demands defines everything. Customer. If you speak about customer, if you deliver for the customer, then revenue generation, performance, and relevance in the market. Again, very key. That's why you hear me continue to talk about it every now and then. Apart from that, you will continue to see commitment, especially in generating revenue in the industry. Very important because we need to be able to create and deliver to our shareholders. Most of these financial institutions, umetolea mfano Credit Reference Bureau, other microfinance institutions, they're coming from shareholders, people coming together, putting their value, a certain amount, so they need to see the revenue, they need to see the value that they're creating, especially in the investment that I have made. So with that, we need to be able to create an environment where a bank always delivers to the shareholders. What does that mean? It also means an environment of banking, it's high pace. It's very high pace. It needs people who are very proactive, people who are ethically correct, people who can understand the customer's demand, people who can be able to work in a teams, okay? In a team where you can also detect and be able to collaborate, that collaboration skills, but people are self-driven to say, let me try, let me do something new. To have the mindset where you're able to come together to solve for certain solution, a certain problem. In that way, you also see that the environment, like I mentioned, apart from being very high-paced, proactive, it has to be also environment where efficiency is really key. Single mistake can lead to, if you let's say you have an error of around 99% error, and then you say I did quite well. For example, in an area where right now, a few weeks ago, reconciliation, let's say, if they have an area of only 1%, the entire problem they will bring to the bank is a big problem. BOT will come, customers will come, left, right, and center. Kila mtu atalalamika. Okay? And imagine your performance iko kwenye 99.9. You might end up even with a warning just because of 1% of error. So it's efficiency is one of the key things. If you're doing something, you have to be very attentive. You have to deliver within a specific time or period. You have to be able, to think outside and be able to say that I'm delivering this because of a certain impact. And that's how the environment is. And it's not only in our bank, but across the bank, because the nature ndo iko hivyo. Kwa unakuta, if, for example, us, when we hire graduates, we put them in a very different environment, okay? We rotate them from, one department to the other. Let's say finance, people and culture. You move here, you go to investment banking. You move here, you go to reconciliation, operation, IT. So imagine you're coming from the finance background, but you're exposing IT, because why are we exposing in that environment? Because we want you to be whole-rounded, in the sense that for you to have to have a skill to think. Whenever you have a problem that is coming from IT, then you're able to say, okay, I know what this means and how we can sort it out, and who I can reach to in terms of solving the problem. So that kind of environment, say, we are aiming for efficiency, impacting, especially efficiency to the customer, okay? So how should you prepare? There's this video, but I'm not going to play it now. Let me just take you through that. I will share my presentation with the doctor, and then you guys can be able to access anytime. I think it's very important to have a view of that. So how should you prepare? I highlighted a number of things, and again, I think this resonates with the journey that I've been through, but also reflecting on where you are, but also thinking about the world trend and what skills you should be able to do, and how you should prepare for the world market. One of the key things is actually volunteering. When I talk about volunteering, I mean, when you have time, umefunga shule, you are home, go even volunteer to, microfinance organization. Spend some few months, spend some few hours. Say, I have this time, let me go and volunteer. In that way, you are learning environment ikoje, unajifunza kitu kipya, okay, in that area, but also you're exposing yourself to a different kind of norm that you're outside your comfort zone. So it's very important for you to volunteer, and when you're volunteering, it doesn't mean you should get money. Okay, when you volunteer, it means you're pushing yourself to learn and to get extra, okay, something new. So, serve your boom. I know some of you mnapata boom, zamani hata sisi tulikuwa tunapata. Instead of kutumia boom kutoka maybe to go and buy hair, or maybe new shoes or something, or go to the club, save that little bit of money as a transport for you to be able to say, I want to go and ask for internship somewhere, or volunteer in a certain organization. It doesn't have to be big, even small. But remember, whenever you're doing that, remember to also update your skill, your CV, include all those information in your CV, because that's what is going to sell you for the future. Okay? Another key thing is actually learning new skills. I mentioned that several times. You're studying finance. It doesn't hurt for you to know what is happening in legal. Okay, it doesn't hurt for you to get another degree, or maybe to find out your learn coding. Coding is now a very, very new thing, and a lot of people wants to learn. I know most of you are young, you're curious, you have time. So use that extra energy and creativity, intelligence you have to learn the new skills. Another key thing is that, understand what is happening in the world. I mentioned that several times. Like I mentioned, these videos, the World Economic Forum, what is shaping the world. Be curious. Go to the BOT website, find out, read this policy, read here, and then be curious to say, let me learn something new. Let me, understand what is shaping the world, because that is how you prepare yourself. And actually, you're setting yourself against a different bar, especially to other graduates. So someone will measure you very high compared to someone who's just sitting and not learning anything new. Okay. Yeah, I think I mentioned most of the things. Like I mentioned, I think last E is go outside your comfort zone. Try new things. Don't be afraid. I know I was here and I was very impressed with some of you who asked questions. And, thank you. You're going to have a present for me. I've noticed you, and you as well. Noticed you. I'm going to have a present for me. Have diaries so that you can remember Stanbic. So go outside your comfort zone. Be curious. Ask questions. Hata kama umekosea, usione kama mimi nimekosea. Jifunze kitu kipya, uliza, usijiweke katika yani mimi sijui, yani mimi niko kwenye fixed mindset like this. Be out there freely, and the more mistake that you make, the more how you learn to actually learn new things and continue to expose yourself and build your skill and build an extra confidence in you. Okay? So again, like as I mentioned, how I think I kept on, reminding you every now and then that how you should be able to prepare. I mentioned about volunteering to gain experience. I mentioned about taking advantage of learning. Very, very, very important. Read books. I don't know. I want someone to tell me what is apart from school, what is the book that you're reading right now? Kuna mtu yote ambaye anasoma kitabu? You tell me. Thank you. Gonna have a present for me. Thank you. Very important. Mimi nilikuwa na culture ya kusoma kwa muda mrefu. I'm gonna tell you my journey, the culture ya kusoma. I'm born in a family ambayo my dad will not take no. So sometimes, and by the way, I went to Jangwani, nimesoma Loyola, nimesoma Mlimani. I also went to Mzumbe for masters. And during the way, Jangwani, Oysterbay, but along the way, I remember my dad, every time tukienda kanisani, he will take us to English mass. And sometimes we wouldn't even know or understand Padre amesema nini, but the reason why he was exposing us to those environment, and he will buy daily newspaper. Atakwambia mama, soma. So sometimes mpaka unakosea kutamka maneno Kiingereza, and then you're like, no, rudia. So every now and then, but through that nikaanza kujifunza culture ya kusoma vitabu. If you go to my home, and I think watoto wangu wanajua, even now there's a book that I'm reading, it's called MBA, Visual MBA. At home I have another book, it's by Elon Musk that I'm reading, a friend ameniletea kutoka India. So there's books everywhere. And I might move from one book to the other. And the reason why, because there's always something new that you're learning from interaction, from what kitu alichoandika watu. Okay? There's always a new word. You will see me, I will bold, nitaandika, nitaika alama, kila kona. And then I'll remember one day, oh my God, I learned this from this area. From this book. Or this author said A, B, C, D. It's very important because the more you create the culture of reading books, it gives you a whole different, perception. It opens up your mind to a very different kind of thinking, and you think outside the box. Okay, so not everything that we learn from school. Okay, that's why especially we need to amplify and continue to remind ourselves to read, especially books. Again, nimeweka YouTube because it's very important. I know most of you spend a lot of time on YouTube. People go kwenye social media, mala crowds kasema nini, sijui Baba Levo, sijui uko wapi, sijui Wasafi. Instead of you using those, define your time to say, today, I want to go to LinkedIn, I want to go to YouTube and follow someone who talks about how to prepare for the job market, how to prepare, after graduating school, or what other skills do I need to learn. So use that YouTube, use that the bundle that you have to learn new things, especially in social media. Very important. I put the Udemy because a number of people are using Udemy. Udemy is also really good in terms of credibility, any certification, degrees. So use that content as well. Again, increase your network. It's very important. And when I talk about a network, meaning continue to build a network of people around you. Today I'm here, but the more you build a network with me, you are able to ask me any questions that you want to know, okay, in terms of how you prepare. And I will be able to remember you and to support you. When you go to church, you meet someone, kwenye vikao vya jumuiya or something, take advantage of the network that you have for you to use it in terms of your everyday and prepare yourself in any kind of environment. So it's very important for you to amplify and use your network quite well, okay? Microfinance organizations, you might look at the number and say, and even if you cover two, and people can describe them like that. But that environment, you meet a lot of women, you meet a lot of men, and when you go to search or you volunteer, you get a lot of information and network. That network can take you far and far in your life. And I have to say that for me, the network has helped me a lot, and continue to cultivate that network throughout my life period. And it's not only in employment, but even in social environment as well. Another key thing that I wanted to amplify is your brand yourself, especially when I talk about brand yourself, is the aspect of your CV. You volunteer, you go to you attended this session today, put in your CV. Okay, find a bullet somewhere and say, I attended ABCD and this is what I learned, or maybe I asked several questions, okay? You went and volunteered somewhere, you did a certain research, didn't you? Put in your CV, because that's your brand. And I know a number of you also are in LinkedIn, okay? Use LinkedIn quite well. The network that you have in your LinkedIn is very important, but brand yourself very well in LinkedIn. Us as employer, sometimes I might be doing interview for you, and then the next thing I'm actually checking, who is this person? The moment I search for you, what comes straight on has to be something good, because that will tell me what kind of person you are, okay? And especially how you handle yourself in social media. Okay, I know mtakuwa mnashangaa, but there are different tools that we use, especially when it comes to employment. We search all this information, and when you search, you get a whole lot of information about people. So make sure whatever you have, that has your name, the social media, it's something good and not something bad. And I'm saying this because, when I was at uni, there was no link, there was no Instagram, there was only Facebook, and sometimes you don't even use Facebook. I didn't have a mobile phone. I think my brother bought for me when I was in second year, and it was only for calling and for them to check if I'm okay or not. But nowadays you have mobile phones, and some of you, some people use them very differently, and some not in a good way. So it's very important for you to remember, whatever information or whatever you do has also impact for your future. Okay, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, maybe it might be the years to come. Because where we are heading, artificial intelligence, people will be able to search for you and get any information they want from you. Okay, so it's very important to always be alert. Always be alert in your life. Okay, yeah. So like I mentioned, I think manage your brand, volunteer, learning, very, very, very important. I think that's it from me.
All right, thank you very much, Janet. Okay, when I read your topic, I thought it's only for graduates, but I realized I learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you very much. I hope others, you also managed to get a lot of new things from her. Thank you very much, Janet, for your presentation. It's also time for questions. Okay, I've seen quickly 2 hands, so I'll just, three. I'll just pick the 3 questions for you. Okay, so start here.
Thank you a lot, madam, for such wonderful presentation. And I'm so grateful and honored to ask this question. First, I'm so grateful to have some Chagas in there as presenters, just to know that Chagas are very vibrant. So I'm a proudly Chaga standing here to ask the questions. By the way, yeah, I have Mr. Urasa here and Madam Moshi. So yes, so quick history before I ask the question. I graduated in Form 6 as a PCM. So after that, I had the opportunity to work in one of the tax collection company. That I get opportunity to meet one of the MD of Azania Bank, and I had a talk with him. By that time, actually, I was really not knowing what I want to study, what I want to pursue in university. I was tired of studying physics. Things were so hard, like the mechanical advantage and energies. I was so done. I was like, I don't want to study physics anymore. So that person told me that why I should come to business. And from that time, I decided I should come and start business. And now what course exactly? I went to University of ISM. I saw banking and finance capacity was of about 100 and 102. I thought this might be very good because it has very little, few people. So I mean, competition in market won't be that high. So that's why I'm here. Anyway, it's very good because I don't ask more about being employed after I graduate, if what that takes. So I have 4 questions, madam, and I start with the second question. You talked about skills. So you highlighted in the video that, I mean, the technologies and everything and skills that we should get in banking industry. You talked only about coding skills. That's only one you said exactly that we have to get new skills, but you did highlight exactly what skills you should get. I mean, when it comes to the requirement in the banking industry. And the first question is, what problems are facing the banking industry that requires specific skills to solve them? I know that problems are what create business. This is true, as we know, the business of university or education provision is from the problem of ignorance. So what exactly problems are facing the banking industry that require skills that have to be addressed? And third question is bachelor degree enough? And now here I'm stressing on intellect. I mean, you didn't talk much about education, like, one should have bachelor degree only, or like masters or CPA or CPB. You didn't talk about that. Now I really want to know if we need another connection, which gives me a reason to ask for your number after this to make more connection. Now the fourth question is the threat of artificial intelligence. You have talked and illustrated very beautiful that artificial intelligence is increasingly stressing, and the need to delve into technological innovation is increasingly important. Now, in terms of banking industry and employability, how is the threat so real when it comes to employability? I remember when you stood talking of, as a sponsor, you say you employed about 12 graduates in your banking industry, as a bank in this year. Now 12 graduates out of 10,000 graduates, about 34,000 graduates in business sector graduating each year. It's very, it's an insignificant percent. Now we're talking of 12 graduates. If every bank or 44 banks will be maybe employing 12 graduates, we have 528 graduates who will be employed in banking sectors, leaving about 30,000 unemployed graduates. Now talking of another 35,000 graduates for other year means like we are increasing the number of unemployability in the sector. Now the threat of artificial intelligence and technological innovation, how is it affecting the current industry and the maybe in the coming generation industry when it comes to employability? Thank you a lot.
Okay, thank you. Second question. Yeah.
Asante, mimi sina swali ila nataka nimpongeze dada Janet Mushi. Nadhani hii ni blueprint uliotoa. Yani ukiangalia tulipofika hapo wengine na alichoongea, kwanza sio tu for graduates au wanafunzi, ni hata kwa ambao wapo makazini na wale ambao wameshatoka makazini wanataka kujiajiri. Kwa hiyo kuna issue moja ambayo nimependa umeiongelea, issue ya kuvolunteer. Tena especially ambao unakuta una connection, yani wazazi wako, yani wewe ndio wewe, yani ukitoka wewe umeokoa watu kama 200 huko nyuma. Alafu kuna wale ambao baba waziri, mkurugenzi, yani yeye akimaliza anaambiwa tumcheki mjomba wako pale Wizara ya Fedha, nenda ka volunteer. Sasa wengine tulikuwa kwenye hiyo situation kwamba wewe ukitoka wengine wamefanyaje? Wametoka. Unaanza kumletea habari za bodaboda au nunue bodaboda, mama anakuambia kwamba sitakupa bodaboda, kajipange. Sasa issue ya kuvolunteer hata sisi wengine tulianzia huko. Na hii kesi naipata sana tunapokuwa kwenye financial institution ukiomba watu waje wa volunteer. Kwa issues za sales, walipe for commission. Wao wanachotaka ni mshahara na wapate permanent. Huwezi kupata permanent kabla mtu anajua una nini kichwani mwako na tabia yako imekaaje. Lakini pia muongelea issue ya networking. Networking na connection vitu tofauti. Unaweza uka network lakini usiconnect. Narudia tena, hii kitu nimejifunza kwa Joel na Nauka. Walikuwa wanazindua kitabu kinaitwa This is what I remember as a customer, kitabu cha Zinduku. Sasa wengine kwa mfano sasa hivi tulikuwa kutoa ofisini, tuko hapa na huenda tumetoroka. Na nilijua kabisa nitakutana na wanafunzi na sikuitwa. Mimi niliona tu wa Dr. Amina Abdu nikasema mimi nakuja. Yaani kuna muda ili ujifunze vingi natakiwa ujishushe. Narudia tena. Kuna muda ukitaka kujifunza vitu vingi lazima ufanyaje? Ujishushe. Ukileta ujuaji kwenye maisha huwezi kufika. Sasa mimi nimekuja hapa kuna vitu nimevipata vingi sana na nipo kazini na sio kama tafuta employment. Sasa wewe ambao bado una employment, yani chukulia hili kama ni challenge kwako. Ukisikia kuna event yoyote, nenda. Ukisikia siku kuna ISEC, nenda kaingie. Ukisikia siku kuna Restock Finance, nenda. Umesikia siku Info yuko sehemu fulani, nenda. Mimi kuna vitu nimejifunza hapa, issue ya profitability assessment. Actually nipo mbioni kufungua Microfinance. Sasa kuna kitu tayari nimepata. Sio kwamba hivyo vitu vingine uvijui, lakini kuna namna kiongea mtu mwingine ukiconcentrate unavipata. Kwa hiyo issue ni kwamba kuna muda utakao ukubali kujifunza, uendelee kujifunza na uconnect, na ili uconnect lazima ujiulize mimi nikichukua namba yule jamaa naenda kucontribute kitu gani pale. Kama una contribution boss chukue kwanza. Kwa mimi nilishaachaga hicho kitu. Kama nakaa na mtu naona hivi mimi nikikaa na dada Janet Mushi ni kitu gani ta contribute kwanza kabla sijaanza kuchukua vitu toka kwake. Yaani nisiwe parasite. Sasa siku hizo wengi tunajifunza kuwa maparasite. Tuache kuwa maparasite tuwe contributors. Asante. Dennis Simon from Lechego Bank.
Dennis. Okay, thank you Dennis for contribution because he added a lot from Janet's presentation. Okay, karibu.
Asante. Mi pia sina swali lakini ni comment. Kwanza binafsi ningependa kuwashukuru wazungumzaji wote waliotangulia kwa sababu mmeshare na sisi habari nzuri zaidi ambazo tunatakiwa kujifunza kwa sasa. Okay, majina yangu naitwa Agustino Mataligana, nipo Chuo Kikuu cha Dar es Salaam. Mwaka wa 3 najifunza capital markets na uwekezaji. Mimi ni member wa Young Investors Forum, na katika Young Investors Forum tunafanya nini? Katika Young Investors Forum tunazungumza na vijana, tunawafundisha jinsi gani ya kuwekeza katika masoko ya hisa, nikimaanisha Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Tunawafundisha kwanza uelewa juu ya Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange, tunafundisha vitu gani wanatakiwa kuvizingatia kwenye kuwekeza salama na kuwekeza kwa faida katika Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange. Moderator Mr. Andasile umekaribisha sponsors wengi, lakini pia mwenyewe naweza kusema kuwa ni sponsor wa event hii.
That's really nice. Hongera.
Shukran. So wazungumzaji wengi sana wamezungumza FSDT, Credit Info, Tamfi, lakini nimegundua kwamba lengo lao ni moja tu. Wana emphasize development of financial sector, the development of financial markets. Why? Wana emphasize development of financial sector kwa sababu maendeleo ya masoko ya mitaji na dhamana yanachangia kwa kiasi kikubwa sana, au yanaeleza kwa kiasi kikubwa sana maendeleo ya taifa kiujumla, the economy. So sisi kama young investors tukiungana pamoja na Tamfi na FSDT na Credit Info, tunataka tuwamobilize vijana wengi sana waje katika kuinvest. Why? Kwa sababu tunapowamobilize vijana wengi katika kuinvest, masoko yetu ya mitaji na dhamana yanakuwa yana pesa nyingi sana ya kuwekeza katika real assets, katika uchumi wetu wa ndani. Yes. So nashukuru sana na nimefurahi sana kwa stakeholders wote ambao mmekuja hapa tukiwa na lengo moja la kutaka masoko yetu ya mitaji na dhamana yaende mbele. So hichi kinanionyesha kumbe tukiendelea kuungana hivi in 10 or to 20 years to come tutakuwa somewhere. So hapa tulipo tutaona microfinance kwa zimeendelea, tunaona fintechs zinakuja, so ni jambo zuri. Nashukuru.
Asante sana. Samahani kwa kusahau sponsor bwana.